decider matchup coming up. Numudan versus SAS. And we're going to kick things off on Gorge. Before we do that, of course, let's take a look at the drafts, though. And looks like we do have some showcase of the new civilizations. House of Lancaster for Numudan. And on the other side, Knights Templar for SAS. So one on each side, it looks like.
Have not seen Templars yet today. Heard a lot about them. We've seen a lot of dominant performance of them yesterday. Excited to see them for myself here, casting alongside you, Lidacor, today. We've been kind of excited for these, for these new civs in particular, but Knights Templar, super duper interesting. Actually, no, we have seen Templar today. Wait a minute. We saw those in the first series.
We've seen it on Frisian Marshes.
That's right. It's been a busy day. I'm excited to see them again. Maybe see some different style play. Some late game play with them would be really fun. But starting off instead on Gorge, we've seen a lot of Malians today. And now we'll see them against Rus on Gorge to start off our best of 5 series with Numudan and SAS. What do you make of the drafts here?
Well, it's interesting to see Malians being used on Gorge. It's not your classic Gorge civilization. I would think it's more like Dry Arabia, Baldland. Baldland is one of the best maps for Malians, so I'm definitely surprised by the pick. Though, again, the thing with Malians is that it's one of the least creative civilization picks in a way, and it's just a powerhouse civilization. Like, you know what's going to happen. It's a matter of can you stop it. Besides, I love the Byzantines for SAS. OOTD would be interesting. We haven't seen a single OOTD game today. And then on the other side, we get Jushi, Jeanne d'Arc, Ayyubids. I'm curious about Frisian Marshes, because it's probably like I can see Numudan playing Jeanne d'Arc there. Maybe Jeanne d'Arc versus French would be an interesting one for Frisian Marshes. I'm also curious about Baldland because, as I said, I think Malians is probably the best on the roster for Numudan for that one. Unless he's thinking about something regarding the manors. Because Baldland, you don't have a lot of wood.
No.
So do you invest your early wood into manors so that you have a passive resource income, which would take away a lot of the problems that you otherwise have on that map?
Yeah, that would be interesting. That'd be an interesting choice there. Because again, yeah, like the wood further off and like later in the game, once you get through your first couple smaller wood lines, you don't have a lot on Baldland. I could see it. I do agree though. Malians on Gorge is an interesting choice. I would have thought maybe that'd be the one you go with, like Jeanne d'Arc or maybe even Zhu Shi on Gorge. Those tend to be more frequent picks. Or even, I mean, heck, even Ayyubids and Delhi can play pretty well on Gorge. So Malian seems like the one pick I would have been kind of scratching my head about, because the lack of gold. I mean, everything's on the wings on that one, except for the opening pit, which is usually kind of up in front too. So interesting choice. Rus feels pretty good on Gorge. Rus feels pretty good everywhere though.
Yeah, like Rus is your wildcard civilization. It feels good everywhere. It's a combination of a civilization that has a really good unit composition, and we talked about this. Eco matters a lot. A nice wood buff is something that you can leverage every single map, and that is exactly what the Rus have. So, in a way, it's one of those things where they just have a buff that's applicable for every single map, and for certain maps you might find civs that are better, but there are very few civs in the game that are just like uniformly good on every single map, and Rus is one of them.
Yeah, Rus just feels good in almost every single matchup on every single map. Like, it's very rare to find a matchup that doesn't feel at least okay for Rus. This one, though, I mean, putting him on a timer again, I mean, but on this map of all things, Malians is an interesting choice. Of course, it's funny we say this as casters, right? But Numudan is just far and away a better player than I'll probably ever be. So surely he knows more than I do, but it does seem like a slightly odd choice. Maybe not an ideal choice, but then again, maybe he's hoping to, maybe he knew his opponent would probably go for Rus here. Maybe he doesn't like Gorge and wanted to get this one out of the way and save his other civs for other maps potentially.
Well, here we go. Gorge, game number 1 of this best of 5, Numudan versus SAS. The winner is going to make his way into the main event of the Elite Classic 3. SAS with the color blue playing as the Rus, and Numudan with the Malians in red.
Pretty standard stuff so far. I'm curious to see how many houses we get as normal on Malians. I mean, I mentioned a couple series ago that like it used to be considered greedy to go for 6. And now it just feels like the standard for Malians. They just can get away with it so easily. I bet we'll see the 2 hunting cabin opening as well for Roos. And the question is, I mean, I guess I say question, it's probably going to be a Golden Gate. We do see just the 1 hunting cabin. And is that a Dark Age Rax?
Oh, wow.
Well,
Okay.
I'll be. We got ourselves a Dark Age Rush coming right up from Roos, of all things. Now someone's going to tell me, however, I'm probably going to be told sometime later, like, oh, don't you know, Soccerton, that, like, Roos is a great Dark Age Rush civ. And I'm just sitting there going, really? Like, what? Okay.
I'm not against it. The gold mine is very far away from the town center, and if there's one thing that you don't expect from Roos, it's probably a Dark Age spear rush.
That's for sure.
It's something that you can use to pressure that gold mine, and that is how you can start throwing off the timings of the Malians if you force them to respond to early aggression like that.
We've seen this a couple times, where every single time someone has Dark Age rushed, it has blown up in their face. And so, like, I feel like...
should.
I mean, yeah. I mean, well, you and I like it that way, I guess. But it seems like Malians is so good, right? We talk about just being such a powerhouse, and here comes, you know, number 6 right there. The house is full greed, basically, just completely greedy on this. That maybe that is what you have to. Maybe Malians just forces this out of everybody. But
yeah,
gosh,
I
it
think
feels
so.
bad, right?
I think so. I think once you get to feudal age, even the Malians will get 3 Donzos out and 3 javelin throwers, and it is just enough to push away any small aggression at the beginning. I just feel like the initial units that you make in feudal age, the value on those is huge for the Malians compared to other civilizations. So if you have to make something happen with limited resources, it's not really something that you can do in early feudal against the Malians. And in Dark Age, it's a different story. If you are the tempo setter, you are forcing Numudan to do things your way, basically. And at the same time, you also force a couple of houses to be rebuilt. I think, again, it's all about setting the tempo of the game. But the problem with Dark Age rushes is that oftentimes it seems like you're doing a lot of damage until you realize that you yourself have been 2 minutes delayed going into feudal.
Yeah, and SAS is not just doing a little 2-spear thing here. He's got 5 and 1 in the queue. He is committed to a dark age pressure. I said dark side. To going to the dark side. He is committed to the dark side of the Force. Going full in on the Dark Age rush. I again, to use a chess term, I'm not sure if this is sound as a move, but we'll see. It's yet to work so far today from what we've seen. Malians seem nigh unbeatable. Again, they did lose last game, but it just feels like it puts you back.
This is interesting, though. He's not targeting the houses. Usually the target is the house because those are easy to kill. But he thinks that he can finish off the whole pit mine. The danger that you're running here is that if you do not finish the pit mine, all of this is for nothing. So part of the reason why players often target the houses is because even if you just destroy one house, at least you've done something. Whereas if you get cleaned up before the pit mine is fully gone, you're in trouble. Now, it looks like he will be able to clean up the pit mine, though, before anything comes in here from Numudan.
Yeah, he's definitely committed. You know, in for a penny, in for a pound. There's also the other adage that says don't put all your eggs in one basket. But here he is, basket full of eggs, as all these spears throw torch after torch. And immediately here comes, is that a barracks? Archery range coming up for Numudan. I think this pit mine will go down. It's burning now. Does he pull the Vils or not? That's another spear. 9 spears by SAS.
That is insane. Like this is a major gamble here because this is a huge investment. Now, pit mine is gone. If you can take out a couple of houses, you can make life very difficult for Numudan. Now, I'm wondering if that would have been the better option because that restricts his ability to add archers without building houses elsewhere.
Possibly. I think taking the pit mine out was a must for this big of an investment. But now that he's done that, he can walk away with a victory no matter what. And now the houses are just the icing on the cake.
Here's why I think SAS is doing this. We talked about this. He wants to dictate the tempo of the game. And I think pro scouts work a lot better when Numudan is opening range. Remember, normally you could have Numudan, if you'll just allow him to go up to feudal, you could have him open stable warrior scouts, and then the Roos player cannot ferry in the carcasses. What if, however, you open spears, and that automatically means that Numudan cannot open stable if they want to clean this up? And that is exactly what's happening. So the investment into spears means that you force Numudan to go into a range, and that might set you up for your actual feudal age plans.
It definitely could be. And since the pit mine went down, he is delaying that gold, which is going to delay the cow boom, which is going to delay, Malians just in general. So SAS, I mean, a very aggressive Dark Age play here, but I mean, from what we've seen, maybe it's kind of necessary because we saw, I mean, even Corvinus had to really dive into it, and it was a tough fight and a tough win for him, even with the Dark Age pressure. This seems to be like a triple down on it, though. I wonder if maybe you're right, if Pro Scouts is the play. We do see those archers moving forward across the map. Not quite sure why. They're still probably chasing those spears. Well, we do see survival techniques coming out, but that's not Pro Scouts. Did he go out onto the food himself? Yeah, he just moved out on his own. So maybe he's thinking of Pro Scouts later down the line, but that's kind of just moving out.
No, if you move out like that, it's just gonna be knights. That was the other alternative. If you force your opponent to open archers, then you actually get a lot more value for your initial knights.
Yeah, and that's true. Those archers are going to have nothing to happen for them here. Nothing going, as the knights will probably be popping up here soon. Spears have returned home. Their duty done. I would say that was a successful Dark Age push, He got what he wanted out of that. And we have this first stable, sure enough. A horseman to start the queue, however. Not enough gold to make a knight. In fact, he doesn't have anyone on gold yet, does he? I think he's just relying on the passive gold from the deer and the hunt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
still early.
Looks like he's just opening horsemen. So I wonder how aggressive he's going to be. Maybe he's going to play horseman archer. Yeah, he's going double ranges. It's an interesting choice to go that way, though, because Numudan already has the range, so he can start adding javelins immediately.
We do see the first Donzos coming out as well. Numudan adding in that barracks. Still gathering the scattering of extra sheep that are on the map. Spears trying to catch up. They won't be able to do that, though. Now, that second pit mine is pretty dang exposed, that 8K down in the south. I guess it's being the far east corner. You wonder if SAS can build up enough of a mass and kind of push up onto that. Deny some of the extra gold here for Numudan.
Yeah, it very much seems like SAS is just going super heavy on the wood. He's just gotten double broadaxe. Obviously, he has the existing Rus buff as well. So I'm starting to feel like we're seeing a version of the super classic Rus feudal age archer plus ram build. There was a time where this was the anti-build or counter-build to the 2TC very, very boomy civilizations. Usually it included the use of a Bordeaux, which we do not see just yet.
I mean, he is on the deer with survival techniques, so that's close.
True, but I'm thinking like this could be an avenue, because one way you can leverage the Rus wood buff is just to spam archers, which are very wood heavy, and then just play a pure numbers game. Malians don't like spamming units in feudal. They just want these small skirmishes between small armies because they can actually stall those.
One lone spearman torching the pit mine right here. Kind of fun. I've always wondered how a pit mine, like, mechanically would just actually make you passive gold. But game's got a game. Pretty good sized military from SAS at this point. He's got 10 archers, 7 spears. He's kind of for that 1-1-1 kind of build. I wonder if he will go for like a ram rush here. Maybe on the east side, take things out. He's moving out to the other deer as well. And we do see there is siege engineering coming in. So he is planning on doing some ram stuff. This could work. This can work. My fear is that Numudan is just going to hold. And that if you destroy one pit mine, it's like Hail Hydra, right? Like you cut off one head, another one will take its place. Like he'll just build it back again.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I think at this point, it's gonna be pure numbers game. The javelins are hard counter to archers, but at the same time, if you have a combination of archers and horsemen, and you just start spamming those out, maybe there's a chance that you can overpower this position, or at least stall Numudan out for some time. Remember that Numudan wants to be untouched, and that is the big problem here if you're playing Malians. You don't want to fight now, you want to fight in 5 minutes.
This is true, and getting a pickup like this is really crucial right here. We see just 2 archers right now, but again, you mentioned it's a numbers game. Every little pickup you can get now, or when that big fight happens later, it'll be in a much better spot, and these horsemen are going to take down a house. And again, the population cap here for Numudan, he's got 95, he's got 68 total. You can get enough of those houses torn down, you can actually affect his ability to, like you've mentioned before, create more units.
Still,
I kind of wish SAS would bring like a villager and build one of those towers up on the gold, give himself a place to fall back to. Because again, Numudan's going to have the advantage of the defender's advantage of being able to produce and just rally them right in front of his base where he needs them, whereas SAS is going the long way. Would love to see some, maybe, I don't know if I would go so far as forward production, but maybe like a place you can hold with like a tower, something that's going to be able to shoot arrows down at the Donzo's back as a defensive holdout.
Yeah, this is interesting because Numudan is on the hunt. He hasn't set up the cattle whatsoever, so this suddenly becomes a nice target here for SAS. At the same time, Numudan has 16 javelins. So we're getting to the stage where pushing into this is going to be awfully difficult for SAS.
Yeah, even the horsemen, the high base damage, still doing a lot of damage.
17 javs, 16 Donzos. It's enough to repel this.
So it's like a prickly porcupine walking around. You can't quite touch it as he just kind of motions around, and they're slow, but you can't dive into them because the javs hurt a lot. They do high base damage, and the Donzos throw stuff at you too. So we see SAS just kind of playing cat and mouse and getting picked off little by little. Again, these number games, losing the little stragglers matters in the long run.
Now SAS is adding numbers, adding knights to this, in fact. And that's going to be a big difference maker. If you have some premium heavy cavalry here, even if you just soak up 1 or 2 volleys, it's a big difference maker. Donzos are being held all the way back. But critically, Numudan is not building up his cattle-based economy. So at the very least, one thing that SAS is accomplishing with this, well, as I'm saying that a couple of cattle is slowly being rallied. But Numudan is still on the hunt, and he's relying on the hunt for food to a certain extent. So at least this fight is partially on the terms of SAS. I don't think he can sustain this status quo for a long time, but he still seems to have that window before the Malian eco would really kick in.
He has a window, but he's on borrowed time. Once his hunt runs out on the northwest side, I don't know what he's going to do for food. He's got that boar. He looks like he's angling towards that boar right now as we speak, actually. I can see on the mini-map he's heading over there. And that's another 2,000 food he's got on the south. But once that's gone, he's got 2K in food to deal with, and then after that, it's farm transition time or berries, which isn't that good either. So he's on borrowed time. He does have a pretty good sized mass. He needs to make sure if he takes a trade, it's a really smart trade as he leaves his cavalry almost hanging right there, just out of the range of Numudan. Man, that's a scary mass we're looking at right there. A lot of Donzos, a lot of javs, slow but prickly.
Yeah, I just feel like now you have the death ball of the Malians. A bunch of Donzos, a bunch of javelins. This is a composition that is so difficult to counter without mangonels or springolds. Yeah. They're going to wipe your cavalry in an instant, and they wipe out range units as well. You would need something like men-at-arms, but even then it doesn't feel good because javelins have a nice base attack. So I don't think the composition that SAS has is good enough to deal with this.
You mentioned Malians maybe being like overpowered, and you didn't want to say it, but maybe they are. I'm like, look at this. Like Numudan can just castle up now.
Yeah,
SAS,
I think
meanwhile, is gonna like run out of food before he even gets a chance to.
The problem, I think, when it comes to dealing with Malians in the competitive scene, at least from what I've seen across hundreds of games, is they can stall out whatever you have with javelins and Donzos, and as long as they stall you out, they will always have a better economy. They don't need to expand across the map, or at least they don't really have to as much as other civs do. This is a nice timing, though. I think SAS was waiting for this. He was waiting for the age-up.
Waiting for the age-up. If he can get on those vills, it's about halfway up. He needs to get some serious work done. This is tough diving into the TC. The Donzo's right on top of the Knights and Horsemen, getting thinned out fast. The Javs behind this. Archers are trying to thin out the Donzos, but there's a lot of them.
It's a
Can't even
cleanup.
quite get to the villagers. I think he's gonna get swept. Yeah.
It's a
That
cleanup.
just feels like game, doesn't it? And it's
Now,
not.
you're
just
saying
yet,
that, but look at the villager kills. It's a cleanup,
14.
but at what cost?
A lot of dead fills. If he can deny this a little more, and they got to get pulled off. He's denied and slowed down the age up, but at what cost?
I think Numudan made a major mistake here. He should have just like ran with the vills and fight it out. Like, this is a beautiful cleanup, and this would have been instant GG if it wasn't for the fact that you lost 15 villagers. That's a huge loss.
It was enough for Corvinus last game, even though it didn't feel like it the entire time. It took a mistake from Lash to open that window up. I don't know. It's tough. You're in a tough spot. You are up some eco. Your military numbers are fairly even. He has built this back up behind it, but now he is down in age as Numudan looking to assert some more control of the map. Oh, this could be a good fight, however, for SAS, because those tech ups haven't come in yet. He needs to push right now. Veterancy coming in for both jab throwers and the Donzo any second here.
I don't think it's enough, though. If the first wave wasn't enough, then the second one is definitely not going to be. Veterancy is now in, and SAS's army is just being stalled out. And this is why Malians feel so oppressive. You cannot trade against them. They will always win trades. All you can do is hope that your opponent slips up and you have an opening to do damage in. That wasn't the case over here. And I mean, it speaks volumes that even after losing 15 villagers, the Malian player still probably had the lead.
Yeah, that's so tricky. You can kind of see that dotted line right there. That really shows the true eco count for where he's at. You know, you got the actual villager count, but all the passive eco and the cow boom and stuff like that. You can just really see how much that matters. At really insane. I don't know what you do about it. Like, the Dark Age Rush felt really greedy, but he got some value out of it, but it just didn't matter. And unless, kind of like with Corvinus and Lash, like Lash somehow gets stretched out and then makes a mistake. Like, you're just kind of hoping that your opponent makes a mistake, but if they play it perfectly, I don't know that there's much you can do. I mean, probably could have. I felt like a really quick game. I mean, 17 minutes in, I'm just kind of reeling at that one. I think he was still in the game, but then he threw away that second wave. Tough loss for SAS, and a well played by Numudan to lean into his Civ strengths and do what he needed to do. See that 9 spears looked so formidable at first there. Got the pit mine taken down, forced him into archers, but then just couldn't capitalize on it enough. By the time he got any kind of ram push or anything going up on the east side, the Javs and Donzos, the prickly porcupine as it were, all ready to go.
Well. Numudan up 1-0. And, well, it looks like we're going to have a second showing of the Templars right here. Cliffside, it's not a map where I necessarily anticipated them. We've seen them once today on Frisian Marshes. Interesting choice here.
I've seen them a lot on there. I've seen them on Cliffside a couple times, actually, just on ladder, just myself playing. So I don't know if that's just because they're really popular all across the board, but I lost to them because I didn't know what I was doing. But I've seen a lot of 2TC builds with them, and I don't know if that's just the meta nowadays, or it feels like they can do so much. So I hesitate to call 2TC Templars the meta. But I think it's good in that they have lots of the sacred sites. You kind of have two other sides to pick from, right? You got the left or the right. Usually you don't go to the center. But against Joan of Arc, I feel like Joan of Arc could do a lot of damage to the Templars here.
They certainly could. I think when it comes to the Templars, what I always praise about them is their flexibility. And that is something that might be a little difficult for Jeanne d'Arc to counter, because at the same time, Jeanne d'Arc is, in general, a civilization that's a lot more rigid. Having said that, Jeanne d'Arc is a great brute force civ. We've seen that before. Like, you think knights and archers will not be sustainable, but in many cases they are, as long as you're leveraging those traits to boost the rank of your Jeanne.
Yeah, it really comes all down to that unit. That's the interesting fact of the design of the Civ is that if you level her up, you're Gucci. You know, if you don't, or you keep losing her too many times and you lose some knights in the process, then you just kind of crumple. Oftentimes, I've always said the best way to beat Joan of Arc is to get back onto her eco and just kind of do a little punch in the nose like a shark, right? Just punch the shark in the nose, punch the bully in the face, and then they kind of back off a little bit. And so I feel like their eco can be kind of suspect because they don't get as many villagers as French does. But if you let her age up, especially, it can get really dangerous really quick. And then she starts getting the bonus for their production as well. They just get basically free units for every 5. They get a free one. Should be a good one, though, as Numudan is up 1-0 against SAS. Of course, this is a best of 5. This is the decider round, so we've got 3 games at minimum. Possibly up to 5, depending on how SAS plays here. So what would your eco? What would your eco be? Or not ecoing? What would your feudal choice be for Templars into Joan of Arc? Assuming that Joan of Arc's doing like normal Joan of Arc things.
I think you go heavy on the knights. I'm wondering though, because I think when it comes to Jean, or when it comes to the Templars, I don't think they have a really good answer in feudal age to in knights and archer play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about the options here.
I mean, you could take the bonus health, right? The Hospitalers, and just be a little harder to double that up with textiles, and you're just really hard to kill. As you
I'm
play for a
thinking
castle age.
You might try to play this with the Chevalier Confrère. That could be an option. That is your only heavy cavalry option. Besides that, I mean, if you get to Castle Age and you get the Genoese crossbowmen or the heavy spearmen, it is a totally different setup. So I think the window for Jean is mid-late feudal. Beyond that point, the Knights Templar will get tools to deal with all the composition that you have. And I think if you are playing Jeanne d'Arc in this matchup, you gotta time that late feudal age push. We head into game number 2, Numudan with Jeanne d'Arc in red, and on the other side, SAS with the Knights Templar in blue.
Excited to see what Templar version we get this time. Obviously, we've mentioned that Templar about as versatile as say Chinese or Byzantines. They can do it all. They can do a lot of different plays. Meta hasn't quite settled down just yet. A lot of options to be had for them. Fun thing with this map, I mentioned it another time, but like you don't ever know what kind of orientation you're going to get of this map, what permutation you're going to have. And this one, the cliffs go from north to south. Sometimes they go east to west. Of course, all the sheep, again, on the wings of this map. So we can see both players sending their scouts out to the sides. And if you're Numudan, you're probably using that southern sacred site for your pilgrims, I imagine. Kind of the further ones away. Because that's going to be tough. You got to kind of assume, too, you're just going to lose a couple along the way. There's no way you're going to be able to keep them all alive. With Joan of Arc being as exceptionally good at getting knights and raiding as she is. Is that a Dark Age barracks? Again?
It looks like it. This time around, it's with the Knights Templar. Oh boy.
SAS cannot be contained. It is Dark Age or nothing for him. Second game in a row going a Dark Age Rax. Is he going to go 9 spears? Is he going to try and kill Joan of Arc? I have done this. I have personally done this with Order of the Dragon. I don't think I should have gotten away with it, but I Dark Age rushed as Order of the Dragon and was able to snipe Joan of Arc as a peasant, and it felt great. It felt wonderful. As he just goes straight to it. Now, it is a pretty close distance, right? The closing distance between these two civs on this map is pretty short. And in he goes, trying to get some damage on the gold vein. Stabby stab. Committing war crimes within 2 minutes of the game opening. And off the gold, Numudan goes.
This is an interesting opening.
Gold? Yeah.
Because you need Jean, like, usually you use Jean to A, gather the gold, B, also build the landmark. And with the spearman being in your face, you are also restricted on where you can build that landmark. But what's bigger than that is taking away the gold. This tower automatically denies this gold. And unlike with many other civilizations which do not need the gold immediately, Jeanne d'Arc does. So here in this case, the fact that Numudan is being pushed away from the gold means that he cannot open with a knight. He needs to shift to the south to take the other gold mine. And even after that, he's going to have to wait until enough gold is collected to make a knight. So this push is actually delaying the arrival of that first knight quite a bit.
Yeah, and Numudan's not even on any other gold yet. Oh, had enough to get up to school cavalry, but that's going to be no knights. And I don't know if just Joan of Arc going to get enough XP from that. It might be a little longer before she can get up to feudal age herself. Tower coming up. I kind of like the positioning of the tower. Just denying it long term. Probably needs to think about wrapping around the south side at some point or doing something to keep him off gold long term. But we'll see if it pays off better than it did last game. I'm curious what version we'll get from Knights Templar here as SAS gets on to gold himself. Still needs a little bit more to get up in age.
Yeah, this is I like this opening for SAS. And I like how he's not overcommitting to this. We talked about this in the context of Dark Age aggression. It looks so good until you realize how much you fall behind because of the investment. But here, this is fine. 4 spearmen plus a tower. That looks reasonable. Remember that your forward villager can actually gather wood right next to that tower. You don't have to pull that villager back, which is a huge advantage. And at the end of the day, what matters is, you see, he's going to be 30 seconds or so behind in feudal age timing, but in exchange, he took away that initial knight from Numudan. In fact, Numudan is not on gold at all.
Yeah, at all. Hasn't even queued up a horse yet. So I would say so far so good. It's going to be archer range and Kingdom of France for SAS, or it's going to be cavalry time.
Oh man,
units produce 15% faster and cost -5 gold. I mean, that's pretty good.
No, it's
the gold cost.
also
I
the
still think it's going to be
Chevaliers.
eventually knights. Yeah, Chevalier. So it is going to be some knighty knights coming in, which makes sense.
I like it. It lines up nicely, especially because Numudan is opening archers. And this is where the flexibility of the Knights Templar come into play. With the Kingdom of France, you can actually play cavalry, and if you felt like, okay, my opponent is going to respond in a different manner, you can follow this up with a different age up. I do believe that cavalry would work really well here because Numudan is not on gold whatsoever. He's making archers. This is the dream scenario for you to get some cavalry out and continue the harassment.
This is where I gotta wonder if the uniqueness of this civ kind of comes into play. I mean, it's so weird to see a barracks coming up from Joan of Arc. Very
and a
interesting.
range
First couple
to
archers
open with.
Popped out already. This is so strange.
And that's going to be a stable indeed. SAS went up to 8 spearmen though, so one thing that's interesting here is that I think he was concerned that Numudan has enough gold for 1 knight. And he needed some more spears. He started with 4. There was no reason to add more without any cavalry coming in, so I think he was concerned that there was more coming his way.
I do see a tower and gold on the south. Numudan getting back onto that essential resource for his civ. But the delay is still there, so long term, will it be worth? We're going to find out. Scout wrapping around, seeing the back gold. But the villagers pull off right now. They don't need gold anymore? I don't know. I'm curious as to why. Is he just going straight to the other one? Very interesting. Chevalier Qualifier coming right out.
It's double stables. It's going to be a full spam build. We talked about this in the GUA set. When you consecrate production buildings with Jean, one of the abilities you get is to spam out units. Like, you can spam knights a lot better than French do. And kind of the same logic applies to the Knights Templar and the Chevalier Confrère. Obviously, it's a weaker unit, but because it's also cheaper and it's a heavy cavalry unit, you can spam it quite nicely, and the only counter your opponent has to it are spears, really, or their own knights. But right now, Numudan is not even getting the first knight out.
Yeah, this feels really weird. Only 127 gold in the bank for Numudan at the moment. Meanwhile, feels weird to say, but SAS has more cavalry than Joan of Arc does at the moment.
As a side note, by the way, I totally forgot about this, but with Pilgrimage coming in for SAS, that's one of the added benefits of taking away the knights from your opponent initially. You cannot get Pilgrims out when French knights are roaming the map. So taking away the initial gold and delaying the arrival of knights like he did means that his Pilgrims are reasonably safe.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen them pop out just yet. I don't know if he's queued that upgrade yet and started them off. But once he does, He's going to have a good while before he can worry about one. Obviously, one knight's in the queue now, but it's a lot better than 4, 5, 6, or even 7 at this point, as we're 7.5 minutes, almost 8 minutes into the game, and the first knight is still just in the queue for Numudan.
Yeah, here come the Chevalier.
Oh. Yeah, and seeing the deer too.
Here's the thing. We talked about this a lot back when Delhi versus French was a classic meta setup. Knights and Archer gets beaten by Horseman Spearmen. That was back in the days when Delhi didn't yet have the Ghazi Raiders. The same logic applies for the Chevalier. It's a cheaper cav unit plus spears is going to beat the premium cav plus archers.
Gone are the days of pro scouts. Both players moving out onto their own deer packs with their villagers. We saw that first pilgrim get there as well into the sacred site. The first knight-on-knight action. Cavaliers coming in. Just a little hit and run, though. Got a couple knights in the field, but yeah, pretty, dare I say, outside of the Dark Age shenanigans, kind of a passive game so far from both these players. I mean, those archers are just on union break right now. Just kind of chilling.
The buildup of cavalry is rather slow for SAS, though. And that's something that gives a lot of opportunities here for Numudan. You see, we're looking at 4 Chevalier versus 3 Knights. Things are equaling out, and I think this is where Jean can start taking over. As good as that early aggression was, I think the effects of that are, at this point, negligible. Yeah. And we're getting to the stage where, again, in mid-late feudal, this is a game that should favor Jean over the Knights Templar.
Yeah, I don't think we can discount the Pilgrim. He's gotten a couple Pilgrims in basically for free now, and he might not otherwise have gotten. But yeah, it feels like kind of fringe benefits now. But he's got a force, though. It's not like any chance of just getting overrun early on is kind of gone. As that Pilgrim, ooh, I almost snuck by. Those Knights turned on a dime. And, well, we have ourselves a martyr. Meanwhile, Archer's still on break. They finally get their orders to move out and do. I love the unit for the Templars. Very fun. It's always amazing to me how much they can make these units differentiated from others. And these guys have a kind of a cool look to them. I like the nice white jackets they got on their horses. In comes a raid looking for it. Quick pull by Numudan. Immediately on it. Saw that one a mile away. A little group from SAS looking around, finding something. Maybe trying to go for that gold that's over there on the corner.
Yeah, still, I'm just worried for SAS that the amount of Chevaliers he has is the same amount of Knights that his opponent does. And that's not a good setup for him. He needs more than that. Nice little jump on the Knight, but he's going to get all these Spearmen cleaned up, so... A nice little raid on the golds. He's trying to pressure the gold mines, but so far, he was only able to force idle time.
I mean, you'll take what you can get, right? 143 gold a minute, or in the bank right now, 280 something a minute. Like, Numudan doesn't have a large gold influx at the moment. Pretty good fight coming up here. Archer on Archer, dealing out some blows back and forth. Got to worry about Joan of Arc in the back. Oh, this could be good. Does Numudan still have good reaction time? Here comes a charge. He does. Gets him in just in time. Man, if that were me, I'd have 5 dead villagers on my hands. So I would not see that. SAS, though, keeping Numudan on his toes. A lot of posturing back and forth. Another Pilgrim makes it. A couple of spears out there defending. I like that call. Just having him on patrol right there by the sacred site to keep him safe. And that little wall action on the north side, kind of smart too. Makes it so you can't get raided from the backside as easily. Looks like SAS might be playing for the boar on the south side there. Looks like he's sending some units out that way. Moving on, just kind of building up. Feels, again, this game feels very passive. Like, there's definitely some raiding back and forth, but it doesn't feel very high octane, for lack of a better term. Yeah, like, they're back and forth. They're playing cat and mouse, but not a lot of damage done yet.
It certainly feels that way. It's been small back and forth. I mean, look at the destroyed value. It's 930 for Numudan, which seems like a lot, 260 on the other side, but we're 12 minutes in, and we had Dark Age aggression from the very beginning, so to be truthful, most of those destroyed values, like the tower and the mining camp, those kinds of things.
Yeah. I will say, though, Numudan massing together what he has, mustering his forces, he's got a lot right there, 41 to 54. There are, despite this cat and mouse back and forth, lots of patrols, not a lot of action, but when you group them all up together, that's a formidable force in feudal age. Little archer there getting pointed out, just singled for death. Ooh, this is a good charge. That's a good engagement for Numudan. Doesn't get the kill, but is happy with the results nonetheless. And likewise, right back at it. SAS now starting to exchange blows. This feels like two heavyweights right now. What they're doing at this moment is just kind of jabbing each other. Offhand hits, you know, kind of taking a moment, trying to get a feel for their opponents a little bit. Haven't quite started landing those heavy blows. Haven't gotten into those later rounds where you start really dishing out.
I think they're waiting to see who's going to blink. And it's funny because for Numudan, there is value in building up his knight numbers and then potentially going to Castle Age, getting royal bloodlines. He also, I think Numudan is more interested in taking fights than SAS is. SAS is really unwilling to trade because he doesn't want to feed experience points to Jean. And I think it's becoming very, very apparent that he's looking for opportunities, but the moment the enemy army shows up, he's like, I'm out of here. And remember, him having map presence means that he gets the pilgrims to reach the sacred sites.
Yeah, he's actually doing a good job with this. This does play into hand. You mentioned, I think, on the button. Joan of Arc, it's 14 minutes in, still has halfway to go to get to level 3. Hasn't taken any big engagements. And I think that's actually by design. Like, SAS knows playing Joan of Arc against Joan of Arc kind of lends it to helping her in the long run. So the more you can delay that and just kind of lay off a little bit, he's really done a good job with that. The scary thing is, though, this knight number up to 15, looking kind of scary. Now, there is going to be about equal number of, you know, the Cavaliers here, but
I think it's fine. Actually, it's fine for SAS.
Got a lot of spears.
He's got 35 spears. Yeah. It's actually very funny because you would think, oh yeah, Numudan has 26 archers. Unless you pick off half of those spears before the knights even charge, it's not going to matter. It's so many spears. In fact,
speaking of charging, here they go into the base. SAS is breaking open the game, trying to get... Well, he only got one Vil kill, and now he's back out again. Boy, this... they are sure just being real time. I thought that was a dive all the way in, but instead, just, you know, like a little punch and back away again.
That was a bad decision to go in that direction. Although the knights need to be extra careful about this. The Chevalier are also looking for targets here. But we talked about this. Who's going to blink first? It's going to be Numudan. He wants to go into Castle Age here, and I wonder if SAS is waiting for this. Because the natural thing for Jeanne d'Arc would be to go into Castle. If you either use your knights and attack, or you go into Castle to get royal bloodlines. And I think the moment Numudan hits Castle, SAS is going to dive.
Yeah, it's 86 to 60. The unit number in favor of SAS. He's waiting for that moment.
Yeah, I think he's waiting for a timing attack. That was the case in the previous game. I think it's the case now as well. He is waiting for a timing to happen. And
SAS
I mean,
really
that timing is going to come soon.
This series. Yeah, that
Royal
timing's going to come right up.
Takes a long time to research. So even though Numudan is going to be in Castle, it will take like a minute and a half to get the HP buff for the Knights. And that is the window that SAS has.
This is about to get really, really, really interesting. Castle Age alerted to all the world. All of China knows what's happened. And now we see what SAS does. He's looking around for that boar, looking for Vil kills. Isn't going to find him. I feel like this is your time to dive. He's looking to see if he can find those Vils. They're not there. They left a while ago. Oh, I feel like it's so important. The veterancy's already almost in. Royal Bloodlines won't be in just yet, but gosh, SAS, you're on a timer. This is time to go.
It certainly feels that way. And it's going to be... Oh, he's going Castle with Genoa. Now, Genoa's going to give you a nice gold buff. The unique unit, I don't know if... I see where he's going, but I don't know how heavily he wants to lead into Genoese crossbowmen. Those are brutally expensive.
But they do counter the Knights pretty hard. But yeah, that seems pricey, especially when you know Arbs are on the table for Numudan.
Yeah, I wonder if the Angevins with Heavy Spearmen would have been better exclusively for countering the Knights. Now, it's very possible he's not concerned about them and he just wants the gold buff. That would also be a fair argument. But regardless, he's going to have his upgrades before Royal Bloodlines kicks in. Problem is that he is letting his opponent get Royal Bloodlines without really any challenge to those knights.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem for him here, as those knights are going to become a big issue. A lot of cavaliers all along the front. They kept going back to that boar, hoping that Numudan would get greedy. He has not been. He definitely realized, I need to get out of here now. It's not safe. Wrong neighborhood. And evacuated the premise. So looking for some punches. And walls coming up. Very cautious play by both these players. It really is seeming like neither of them. I mean, we mentioned that we thought Numudan might have blinked, but no, if he blinked, SAS blinked at the same time, and neither knows if the other blinked. Pilgrim's still going though for SAS. I mean, by all accounts, things are pretty even. A slight numerical advantage in Vills for Numudan. I'm wondering if maybe SAS has just missed a couple from the TC. And he does lose, I think, one on the age up. Maybe even one or two. Sees, of course, Knights Templar age up from their town center. Everything's up to veterancy now. All the upgrades coming in. Big posture along the cliffs. Both armies moving in. Knights and Knights just kind of wondering when they're going to get the trumpet call to go in. Relic being taken by SAS. Walking that one back. Ooh, this might be it. Does he blink here? He's just going to let it die.
42 spears,
another
though.
martyr.
That's a lot of veteran spears. And I think
he could have turned and saved
look at the
it.
army
I don't know why he
count.
waited.
Like, the army value is also much bigger for SAS, but this is where, you know, the factor that Chevalier Camphair are cheap and Spearmen are fairly cheap comes into play. Numudan is spending his resources on very expensive knights. Now, Jean is almost level 3, and that's going to be a huge thing here.
Yeah, that's going to help her out a lot. If he needs a really good engagement, she's going to get level 3 almost no matter what. Charge about to come off. And here we see the cat and mouse is built up to a head. Spears coming in, trying to get their cheeky little pokes in as they can. Looking for the opportunity. Still playing some cat and mouse. Neither is willing to take this fight. I think Numudan knows he's outmassed here. And there's level 3. Now he'll turn and fight. Waited for level
Spearmen
3, and
were lagging
now the
behind.
Spears get on top. Spears lag behind, but now they're on top. This is going to go SAS's way. We see the ranged attack, or the melee attack from Numudan, but the Spears on top of it. Archers behind, just picking things down. Knights going down. Cavaliers almost all gone. The heal, but the Knights, are there enough? The more reinforcements coming in from behind, as SAS still has 77 to 25. This one is going to go SAS's way. The Knights are cleared. The Cavaliers win it, and he's pushing into the base.
Yeah, this must be game here. It was, as you said, it was like a heavyweight boxing match. They were just feeling each other out, and then someone blinked. And
SAS punched. Oh, what a way to go. I mean, 78 to 17 now.
This is just a spin-off of the meta that we've been seeing for ages. When you have a cheaper light cavalry unit or light-ish cavalry unit supported by spearmen, those generally beat a knight plus archer combination. And it really was a quantity over quality type of a thing, despite the fact that Numudan took the fight at a really favorable spot. That choke point helped him a lot, actually. And oh no, that is just terrible here for Numudan.
Right as he goes back to the boar. He'd waited so long to go back there, thought he could sneak out, but SAS, ever present, knows right where to go. Had a feeling in his gut, listened to it, and is rewarded by a couple vills. I think he only got one vill kill out of that. Just the one, but...
it's the big push coming towards the base, though. He has all the archers and spears going in, and now the villagers are getting pushed away.
And if he landed the first blow earlier, this feels like it might be the knockout punch as these two heavyweights finally duke it out here in the late rounds. Looks like we might just have a tied series coming up on us very soon.
Yeah, and Numudan doesn't have a lot of units in queue. It's not looking great for him. He still has 14 knights to throw bloodlines, but as long as SAS keeps adding crossbows and spearmen, Numudan will not be able to take a direct fight. A lot of opportunities to raid for Numudan, though. Even though you do have the walls up for SAS, there are a lot of like little pockets to the north that could be open for raiding.
Yeah. It's at this point, like I said, Jeanne d'Arc suffers food. That's the thing they suffer late game, is that sustainability. And to replace all those knights, it's just so expensive. And now this has got to be GG. Villagers being left hung up to dry. SAS is going to tie this series 1-1. The heavyweights duke it out. Numudan still got some knights, but gosh, unless he can come back and do 20 plus build kills really quick and make up 90 military, I don't know how he's going to do it.
Oh, there's an opening, though. There's one opening on the walls, and that's right through the middle.
But is it enough? Because if you want the base trade, I think SAS will be happy to take it.
Yeah, SAS is going to just like slam units against this to slowly clean it up. Remember, it's not just the villager gap, it's also the relic gap that's starting to build up. He's looking for villagers, but
he's trying to even this game out.
Yeah, at the same time,
a pretty good raid, but I don't know if when you're down 93 to 23, he's faster. But all Numudan needs to lose this is have SAS make some rams. If SAS just makes any kind of siege and walks in, it's over.
Or the Chevalier hitting the villagers on the farms. Yes.
Yeah.
Numudan is climbing back in the villager count, but at the same time now he's pressuring those farms, and it's 94 army against 21. So it's one thing that you take out the eco of SAS. Even if you do that, you need to find a way to stop an army that's 4 times the size of yours.
Well, I don't know if Numudan knows how big of an army he has at this point. Like, it's hard to tell when you're just seeing little bits and pieces here and there. But there's a huge blob just moving across the map that he might not be aware of. As most of his vision's gonna be focused on this right here, right now. And it feels like, yeah, he's got some units. But does he see this? And gosh, yeah, that's about to get real bad. Those mangonels might just get sniped, though.
Oh, I mean, at this point, you walk into the enemy base right there. Most of the knights are gone. Jean is also low HP. Numudan is doing a really good job buying time, but at the same time, look at his food eco, for example. He's at 70 food, and oh boy, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, he had no food behind that. That was the last bit. Boy, that big fight, man. That was a classic like AoE thing. You know, you and your buddy just kind of go, okay, for 20 minutes, we're going to build up our military, then we're just going to smash them together and see what happens. Very, very old school AoE style, you know? Close game. Look at the graph. Slight edge, ever so slight edge militarily for SAS for the longest time, but the slight edge of eco for Numudan, and then that big fight that just blew it all to smithereens. What a game!
This was a fun one, and I'm glad that we've seen the Templars succeed. Makes this into an equal series. And looks like we're not done with the new civs just yet, because there's a response, House of Lancaster, coming out against the French. So we're not done with Royal Knights just yet either. I'm interested in how this is going to go, because one thing that we've seen here is that lighter cavalry plus spearmen will beat the Knights and Archer comp. How does that work with the House of Lancaster is a different story, though, because I don't think you can play stuff like Hobilar plus Spearmen. Although the Spearmen do have the Billman upgrade, which definitely makes things a little more appealing to you. But it's definitely a weird matchup, partly because some of the unit roster that the House of Lancaster has is just a little awkward, and it's not something that's like very obvious for a frontline aggressive composition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this will be interesting. This series has already proven to be quite interesting. Malian's looking really dominant in game 1. Templars and Jeanne d'Arc, what a game that was. That was fun. Now tied up the series. Fun fact, looking at historically Numudan versus SAS, in 2024, Numudan in the War Chief Club beat SAS 1-0 in number 71 of the War Chief Club then. And then also this year, or 2025, in Killer Pigeons Midweek Muster number 18, they headed off again, and Numudan took that one again as well, 2-0. So SAS, with his first tournament win over Numudan that I can see in recent memory, has put up points on the board. But Numudan now with 1 as well. This is turning into an exciting series. Will it go the distance? We're going to find out. We got a minute and a half for our next game. Frisian Marshes. I really like this map a lot. I really like Frisian Marshes. I think it's a really fun tourney map. I've always enjoyed it. I like it. It's really fun. I kind of wish it was in the base game. I wish I could play it on ladder more often. There's a couple of them I feel that way about, but be interesting because the town centers, you know, they're all on the same side. They're like kind of right there, and all those resources out in the sides. Like I feel like that French Knights would be able to secure those pretty easily. to be able to run around the map, but also with how defensive House Lancaster can be and how little food they need. It's kind of an interesting choice on this one.
Yeah, I wonder. I think the puzzling decision for me with the House of Lancaster on this map is that this is not a traditional map where you want to hunker down and just like play condensed. This is quite the opposite. You want to spread out, and that is why high tempo civilizations like French are being picked here. You want to spread out, leverage the fish, and I feel like if you just concede the whole map, if you just say I'm gonna hunker down with the House of Lancaster, and I'm just going to play defensive, the opponent will just pick up all the relics, they'll pick up all the shorefish, and they're just going to outboom you. So I'm curious how that's going to go. SAS, 1-1 right now. I wonder if he's going to open Dark Age Spears of the French. So far, we're 2 out of 2 when it comes to Dark Age Spears. It would be a shocker to see him go for Spears in this game, however.
Yeah, it definitely would be. We've seen him pull them out both times. This time would be quite the interesting thing. Fun thought, though, on one of this map with all the shoreline fish. Some people might not know this, but it's the only food source in the game where every single civ gathers at the same rate before the buffs are applied. Obviously, this excludes Order of the Dragon. And the current version of this map has about 8 pawns per player. So it's one of the land maps with probably the highest neutral food count in probably the entire tournament.
And it's very snowbally. When you have access to that shorefish, it's especially in early mid-game, it gives a massive boost to your economy, and that just snowballs into more map control and then more shorefish, and at the same time, you're taking away the shorefish of your opponent. So oftentimes, if you secure good early map control, and your opponent isn't able to take away your fish, the game becomes very snowbally, because you just have such a massive advantage when it comes to food income.
Yeah, there's a lot of food on this map to be had. But ironically enough, House Lancaster might not need as much as other civs with the passive food generation they can get. That said, we will see how this plays out. We've got SAS as the blue French. That just feels like it fits, right? And Numudan, House of Lancaster in the red. No Dark Age shenanigans that I can see thus far. So, first game this series, we won't be having any spear rushes. Now, I feel like French has a really simple game plan here, right? And there's a small chance, non-zero chance, that we get a Chamber of Commerce with the trade post in the very far corner there. That could be pretty effective, honestly. But you kind of wonder, why would you do that when you can just go for, the knights? But, it's an option. It's a small, non-zero chance, I will say. I feel like overall, though, French's game plan is a lot more linear. Play the feudal game, deny, deny, deny is kind of the goal. Whereas Numudan, I feel like there's a couple more options he's got. Obviously, it's going to be Lancaster Castle. Seems to be the go-to. I've yet to see the other landmark yet, ever.
Yeah, the Abbey could be an option. I think you just get so much value. It's the same thing as you would get with the Kremlin. The same thing that you would get with any other defensive landmark like Barbican. It helps you protect an area so well. And traditionally on this map, the front of your base is wide open. So being able to drop a defensive landmark is immensely valuable. And this is actually a very valuable one because you do have the hunt and the gold nearby. SAS doing his best to just spread out that hunt, make this a little worse. And then, of course, there is the fact, as we have a Chamber of Commerce pick.
I called it. Oh, I called it. I was wondering with the placement. Now, my one caveat in this, though, is that there is a danger. To have another Star Wars quote, we've analyzed the attack pattern. There is a danger. House of Lancaster could pop out like 1 million Demi-Lancers as a get-out-of-jail-free card at some point. That could prove dangerous, but for the short term anyways, I mean, what's Numudan going to do about this? Not much.
Yeah, I love this. I think the wild card, obviously, is how Numudan plays House of Lancaster. If he plays super condensed and if he's a big believer in the manners, then the best way to beat that is go for extremely aggressive eco-expansion, and the best way to do that is by going for Chamber of Commerce and trading. On the other hand, as you said, Demi-Lancers are an option. Hobelars are very easy and quick to manufacture. And if your lines are stretched thin, Hobelars just running around and sniping traders is the nightmare of the French.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with Corvinus earlier in the earlier series, that those things are fast, flee, and cheap. That could be pretty good. But of course, the other thing is that Numudan has to see this first. He might not see or know about the trade until it's already gotten a little bit of payoff, and then he has to react to it. So there's gonna be a little bit before he knows what's up. That scout is heading over to the base. Maybe he'll sniff out something kind of sussy here in a second.
Yeah, like you can tell that he was in no rush to scout the enemy base. Also tells me that he's not going to play super aggressive. Like he's not, he wasn't looking for targets up until this point. Obviously he wouldn't have army anyways, but just goes to show that I don't think he's going to play super aggro, and indeed it's going to be just manners. So here's the thing with the Hobilars, and this could be very annoying for SAS to deal with if we go in this direction. With the Hobilars, they just run so much quicker than Knights, so you would think, well, my Knights will beat them one-on-one. Well, my Knights just make minced meat out of them. The problem is that what the Hobilars could do is run circles around you and just pick off the traders.
Yeah.
And in that case, these traders are super vulnerable for a threat like that.
Oh my gosh, Cow, you maniac. We've got a sheep counter, and it is dead even at 22 to 22. I love this.
Balanced.
Why have we not been using this every single game? We should have been using this every game. I love this. Oh, that's awesome. We've got ourselves a sheep counter. What don't we have here? What can Cow not do? Shout out to the production team for the excellent work behind the scenes that you guys at home don't get to see. Everything from getting the scene set up, getting the overlay, the sheep counter. There's a lot of work that goes into this, so we want to shout out our guys upstairs, as it were.
Okay, Numudan just opening with spears here, and again, I am somewhat puzzled about what he is going to do. He's the big wild card here, and there's a chance that this is just going to be a full manor boom. I assume he tested this. Like, this is not something you just would blindly do and hope that your economy is going to be better than the opponent's. I'm actually surprised that SAS is not moving up for fish.
It might still be. These manors are pretty dang good, but regardless, Numudan does know. He's seen this. He has confirmed that it is trade. He probably had a suspicion. It's kind of why he looped around the back. But I'm almost wondering, does the manor, a full 9 manor build might compete with the trade? I think eventually it gets outpaced, but when does that happen? He's got spears coming out now. I imagine he's going to try and post up out there.
I think the buildup of the manors are quicker than it is for the trade, because with the trade, you're limited by the production capabilities of the Chamber of Commerce. And most importantly, manors cannot be raided. Trade can. I think that is the big difference maker. So as long as it's like even-ish, that's fine for Numudan.
That's the tricky thing, right? Is like Numudan's safe at home. SAS is kind of putting his neck on the line by throwing those traders out there. He's
going castle.
Risking things.
Look at Numudan.
Oh,
because he's got all the passive resource income from the manors, he just sent a bunch of villagers to gold. And this is what I was referring to. I think you only do this if you have a timing on this one. And remember, Lancaster gets boost for sheep as well. He's got the passive resource income, sheep boost. He's collecting gold. He's going to go castle. I don't fully know what he was going to go for castle or in castle anyways. But the timing on this is really nice. It's going to be a sub 8-minute castle.
Yeah, it's going to be lickety split as he's dropping the landmark right there. It's going to be the King's College. It's got a lot of unique technologies.
It's just going to be a little longer than that.
It's going to be about 8.5, I think. 8:30 is kind of what I expected to pop up. Maybe 8:40. Still, that's a fast castle. That's almost as fast as the best of them. I know HRE can get up to like 7:30 if they really push it. But with a couple spears out, pretty fast castle time regardless. SAS does have some knights on the field. It's going to take a while for that ego to get online. He does have some knights to show for it.
What I would love to see from SAS, and I think he started doing this just now, as the knights are looking for a target. Villagers will pull back. The age up is being scouted here by SAS. This is huge. He knows what's coming his way. No. I don't think he wants to stand and fight here, though.
Yeah, loses a knight for that. That was definitely not worth the effort. Gonna lose almost 2.
The manor is also fire arrows. You have the castle, you have the TC, you have the manors, and you have the spearmen shooting at you. He lost a lot of expensive knights for this, but what I was going to say is that one way for SAS to punish this is to leverage map control, and he can do that by going crazy on the fish. And that is exactly what he's doing now.
That's what he's doing right now. I'd love to see him post up on these gold, because that one gold he's not able to do much about, but after that gold eats up and is gone, The other gold veins are nowhere to be had, and eventually Numudan is going to be gold starved. Everything of his is gold wise is up front. We see the knights trying to get a dive in. So far, they've not been worth the effort. Traders starting to really get underway. It's 47-33 on the eco count. That is, of course, buffered by the traders. Ooh. And the fact that French gets faster villager count as well. So he's going to be a little bit ahead either way.
And it's triple stables. SAS doesn't want to go castle. I like this mentality from him. Because one thing that Numudan doesn't have is good knight production. He just reached castle age. He just now started producing knights. And it's one of the unspoken advantages of French. The fact that you can make knights in feudal means that you will never reach castle age without a single knight. Numudan reaches castle age without knights. He needs to wait until those really build up.
Yeah, right now SAS feeling comfortable for the moment, but I worry. I mean, down in age, eco's still kind of booming, waiting for the payoff. Again, those knights are dangerous and respectable, but eventually they lose their edge as House of Lancaster eventually gets online. We do see some walls. You can already see he's realizing he needs to secure those fish eventually. He's not going to have unfettered access to all the map forever.
Numudan picked up the unique tech color of S's though, and that is going to give him +6 bonus against enemy heavy units, including enemy knights. So the quality of Numudan's knights in this knight versus knight battle is just so much better. And I think that was the plan all along. You know that French will be coming your way. You just want something that counters their cavalry with better cavalry.
We're going to see another heavyweight fight. We've been using the boxing analogy, and we might have to use it again. You know, he's gearing up and a little slow to bloom, but once he gets there, those knights will be packing a punch and a half. The cat and mouse game continues. I just don't know that SAS has gotten a lot of value out of these yet. Like, it's good that he has them. And as long as he keeps them alive, they have value inherently. But, gosh, feels like kind of the same way I feel about, like, idling villagers. Idle military is kind of a waste of resources in some ways. Yeah,
Knight numbers
charged by the knights.
Knight numbers are slowly equaling out though, and remember these are feudal age knights against castle age knights that have a +6 against them. I don't think you can fight this anymore if you're SAS. He's trying to pull back, and this is where things get dicey. This is the difference between the manners and the traders. The manners cannot be raided, the traders can.
Thankfully for SAS, it's only one knight. The rest of them still at home. SAS trying to keep them honest and staying right on their landmark, but in comes the Demo Lancers, the get out of jail free button, and suddenly those cav numbers are looking real good. And now he moves out with them all together. Royal Institute's been dropped down, so SAS needs to keep these knights alive. He really wants to maximize the value. He's going to take a dive right here. Backs away smartly. I don't think he wants this fight. He does not want this heat just yet. But where can he go? He can only kite them all the way back to the base before it becomes pandemonium. Walking around the walls. They're wide open, though. The trade still going behind this. Thankfully, he's secured. I think there's another knight chasing them right now. But in the base and sitting on all the food. This is going to be a problem. I wonder if SAS is going to, like, toggle over some food on the trade to kind of mitigate this. He's got plenty of gold, but the food is going to become his biggest chief concern.
Yeah, Numudan doesn't have a lot of manners just yet. He definitely can add more. But oh, this could be huge. Gets scouted by SAS. He's going to respond just in time, but that's quite a few Demi-Lancers. Some knights as well.
Can't put them all in, though. You can't save them all. Oh, just in time. The cavalry saving the day. I say he had nowhere to put those villagers. If those knights had not been at home, that could have been disastrous. In fact, it still looks tentative.
Yeah, this is just a decoy, though, because at the end of the day, the main show is Numudan collecting the relics. And he's trying to fight this before Royal Bloodlines kicks in. Royal Bloodlines takes 1.5 minutes, and this is not a fight that SAS wants to take without that tech.
Yeah, I don't think he has a choice, though. He's got to defend. He cannot hide all the villagers forever. He needs to get in there. At least he's able to repel Numudan's forces for now. But it gets, you got to be real careful. This cat and mouse game immediately backs up. Got a little charge off. I got to hand it to both these players. They are very good at using their knights. I kind of envy them, actually. Wish I could control my cavalry as well as they do theirs. Trader's still going. I think I saw 1 or 2 of them ticked on with the food instead of gold. Trying to keep his eco balanced. Yeah, a couple of them have food ticked on. Trying to keep that going for himself. He definitely needs it. He's not on the fish anymore. I think he's moving back out now. Ooh, exposed villagers on the gold. Bit of a slow reaction from Numudan. He gets one. He'll take it though. Yeah, like you said, the relics in the background getting snatched up. Royal Bloodlines is ticked in, so now I feel like SAS feels a lot more comfortable at the moment. He's much more willing to take a fight. But still needs to be judicious in where he sends his units. Onto the wood line they go. Vil scrambling. It's going to be a couple down. And it's now 3 worker kills to 3 worker kills. Ooh, big engagement here. Taking it under the arrow fire of the landmark. Knights on knights, just duking it out. It's hard to tell who's got the advantage. I think Numudan, he's got the demi-lances in there, so I don't think they're as good as the knights. So
yeah, they are not.
Numudan takes the worse for wear.
Numudan is missing some knights from this fight, I do believe. I think he's got more. Didn't he garrison some in the tower just below? I wonder if he actually ungarrisoned them. He's also missing the melee defense upgrade, which is something that his opponent does have. So melee attack also missing from Numudan. In terms of the quality, these knights are kind of even-ish right now. Numudan has bonus damage against SAS's knights, but the blacksmith upgrades plus Royal Bloodlines just make SAS's knights so much better.
Not to mention chivalry. They're healing up as they go. So after every engagement, they're getting better. So it's really like he's getting bonus knights. And if they all were half health and then came back to full, it's like he got an extra 50% unit comp. I mean, you got an extra 50%, you know, that's really big. Sometimes I think people overlook how important chivalry is and how important it is to bring those knights back. Just let them heal up and get back to full again, because you save so much in doing that. Taking the tower down. Doesn't do much besides vision. Obviously, House of Lancaster does not get network of castles or citadels. Still only 3 manors from Numudan. Not a lot of passive res. Knights trying to capitalize on this here.
I think we are getting to the tipping point where the trade is going to be better. Trade plus the shorefish gets better than the passive income from the Lancaster.
Yeah, and even with relics notwithstanding, if he had all 9 manors, I was wondering if that would maybe counteract the trade with relics. But you're right, with 3.
I agree. I think 9 manors perhaps, but I was talking about this a couple of minutes back. As long as the ecos are even-ish, that's a good setup for Numudan, because his economy is much more difficult to raid than the trade of SAS. But that is no longer the case, and we're not seeing any opportunity right now for Numudan to raid his opponent. I almost wonder if he needs to detach a couple of knights and just risk his opponent diving his base, but he needs to find a way to threaten that trade and buy himself some time to build up his eco.
Yeah, it feels like he's lagging behind big time. 86.53 on the workers. Trade going full ham. A couple of those getting food in. So, I mean, SAS is like a really good investor. Not only does he have a portfolio full of investments, he's also diversified it. I mean, relics notwithstanding, it's 4 relics to none, so that's going to be a small boost. Man, I really wish he had more manors. Like, it feels like he's one bad fight away from this all crumbling.
Yeah, it speaks volumes that it's 90 workers versus 55, and you could say, well, yeah, but you have a lot of passive resource income from the matters and the relics. But remember, it's not just a worker versus worker comparison. It's also the fact that SAS has all the villagers on shorefish, and look at Numudan. 12 villagers on berries, that is not a good look. So when you compare side by side the overall resource income per minute, it is abysmal right now for Numudan.
Kind of an odd choice to go for the berries when the fish are really just right there.
Fair point.
And the gather rate's so much better.
When Numudan needs new gold, he tried to drop a castle right there, but that's not going to come together. And I think SAS is going to stand and fight.
I think he's going to win this too. There's a lot of spears in this, so it's going to be a more even trade than you'd think. But he's wrapping around. That's a bad sign for Numudan. I was worried at the beginning if that gold was forward and what he'd do. And he's out of gold, which means he's going to be out of this game if he can't get this keep up. The keep might just go up. There might not be anything left afterwards. As the knights round out, all that's left is a couple spears and some crossbows. Villagers are pulled, and a costly trade. I think SAS got the better of him here, though. But
yeah, in terms of the trade,
spears did a lot of work.
in terms of the trade, I think Numudan won that fight big time in terms of cost efficiency. Like, you were slamming knights against spearmen and crossbows. The difference is that the eco, there is still such a big difference between the two players that SAS can replenish this army and Numudan cannot. If Numudan,
yeah, the fact that Numudan has any gold at all is pretty much completely due to the fact he's got 4 relics back at home. That's literally his entire gold eco at the moment.
Numudan needed a couple of knights. Like, I think he now needs to go and try to hit the trade, leverage the fact that his opponent lost a lot of knights, but as you can see, we have reached that point where the trade, having been untouched for so long, is just starting to show itself, and SAS is going to go Imperial. He's probably going to Red Palace the middle. I would love to see a Red Palace just by this large gold vein.
Oh yeah, just deny that long term. I mean, he's got if he just clicks the button a couple times, he's got the gold and to just buy the food he needs. Or if you can just wait, 30 seconds, and he'll have it either way. Feels like this game is quickly leaning towards SAS. The trade, it was risky, right? It was really risky, but the manners, he only ever got 3 up. And so with Numudan only having those 3 and the trade going unfettered, it just skews really quickly. We were wondering what would take precedent, but just couldn't keep the manners pumping while also maintaining a fight for these knights. Now Numudan's doing what you suggested a while ago and looking for something, but immediately getting turned away by these other knights. And into the base they go. Spears and crossbows are enough to at least deter them. Ooh, bad slip up here by SAS. Gonna lose some knights for pretty much nothing. The difference being, though, he's just clicked up to Imperial. So it's 42 military to 16, but a Red Palace clicked up. I'm wondering if that's gonna make much a difference here for Numudan. He's got a decent sized military, but down in age and down a ton of eco. It feels like SAS can just throw the knights away and not even care. That keep doing a lot of work. Knights are going to dive it anyways, though. They don't really care. They've got their ranged upgrades. Villagers dying left and right. Ooh, this feels really bad. This gold vein was so crucial for Numudan to hold on to. Again, down to only gold he gets from relics, which is formidable, but not enough to carry a civ in late Castle Age. Random spear party walking around looking for something opportunistic. At this point, French is starting to look like Malians with their eco. Just have so much food and so much gold. As age 4 is ushered in. And if you're Numudan, I don't know what you do at this point.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about what Numudan could really do, but we are looking at a setup where one player has a fully set up late game economy, fully walled off, and we talked about this at the beginning of the game. If you have map control, the game starts to snowball out of control because you have all the fish. If you have the fish, you have an insane food economy. With the French, you also have the traders having the ability to generate food for you instead of gold. So you never really get put into that position where you suddenly need a farm transition that just slows you down. And at the same time, totally untouched trade. 30 really high quality knights, an age advantage. I just do not know what Numudan can do to break into this. 60 villagers at minute 22 isn't going to cut it.
No, it's reached the point where the knights are just taking one-on-ones with the spears and they just don't care.
Yeah,
SAS has that kind of money. He can just kind of throw knights at anything. He's got a problem in life, throw some knights at it, He's getting audited on his taxes, throw some knights at it, He's fine. Any problem in his life right now, he just throws knights and he's good.
I wonder if Numudan is trying to get to Imperial. I don't think it matters. He's down by 60 population, he's down by a full age, and he's just lacking everything that you need to win a game. I know it sounds very grim, but that is the reality. He's limited on map control, he's limited on mobility, he doesn't have opportunities to hit the enemy eco, he's down by 100%. There's a 100% differential between the two players in terms of worker counts. These margins just put him to impossible odds.
Especially being down in age, Like, you're getting out-teched and outclassed by the second. I kind of wish Numudan had been more aggressive against the trade. early on. It felt like he had a lot of knights kind of sitting in his base, and he could have peeled maybe some of those away earlier. His base was the base. It was fine. He was just sitting there, and they sat there in that base for quite a while. They were doing some cat and mouse, but could have snuck some more off and done some more pressure. Because now you look at this mass right here. I don't know how many knights that was. Probably close to 40. And there's just not a lot of hope left. It's just a matter. This alone could probably kill the base and everything in it. 42, yeah. I think he's just kind of waiting for a couple more upgrades, maybe making some siege. We do see the wind guard coming out. I don't think that's going to be enough to save him, because the problem underlying this is that it's going to become a meat grinder, and SAS is just going to throw this and the kitchen sink at Numudan.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, Wingard is going to come in, and the moment it does, SAS is going to right-click his army. It's going to be the perfect timing. Yeah. Your opponent just spent the little resources he has on aging up, and now you're just going to slam your forces against him. And 45 Spearmen sounds pretty nice until you realize that there's an age gap between the two players. I hope that Numudan at least has bill hooks. If he does not, it's just going to get ugly.
And in comes the cavalry charger right now, right as the age up comes in. This could not be any worse time for Numudan. But what more could he do at this point? Knights are just gonna say, screw your keep. And again, the problem too is, like, Numudan's got 600 gold. He's gonna be able to get like one upgrade, maybe two. And he's gonna be able to not afford anything else. It's gonna be another minute before he get enough gold to buy other upgrades. So he's kind of just stuck. You see him getting tithe barns right now, trying to make those relics even more valuable. And again, 4 relics has been his gold income for a bit, but it's just not enough.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when at this point. And Numudan is trying to get the elite upgrade for the Spearman. It's not going to matter because, again, 58 knights with full French upgrades versus 48 spears is just not enough.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not enough for the Spearman.
Even in these choke points, it feels like it's going to go SAS's way. And we do see all the manners now popped up. It feels like, I really feel like Numudan took a long time to get those up. You know, he was on 3 manners for a very long time as SAS just got away with trade. It kind of feels like Numudan kind of just didn't do much with what he had. Like, the knights he had, I just don't think they were being used effectively enough. Even the demi-lancers, I feel like he should have been on the trade and taking the fight to SAS. That said, SAS has a cannon and a couple of Rebaldaquins coming out. I feel like he could just take this fight. He's being kind of almost a little cautious. I mean, it's 75 to 52 military, so he is outnumbered. I don't know. I feel like you're kind of you're at pop. You're at 198 of 200, so you've maxed your population number. That's when you just send it. You've got 3,500 food in the bank, 1,700 wood, 2,100 gold. You send it and rebuild, and just make your opponent force out all the stuff they can. Because you can force a trade or two. At this point, you've got the money. Spend it. Make your opponent try and match. This is kind of like a Cold War era arms race, and SAS has the bankroll for it.
Yeah, I think SAS is a little overcautious here, but now he has enough knights to just start detaching some of them and start running circles around. And I mean, you're getting to the point where you start deleting villagers because he just needs more population space for knights.
Yeah,
he's floating 4,000 food, 4,000 gold. Just delete 20 villagers and replace them with knights.
He's being so cautious here. It's killing me, actually. Like, you can just take the fight. Like, you've got 4,000 food in your bank. Like, just take the fight, you know? Like, you're never going to run out of gold. Just trade.
It's so funny seeing the players being cautious because obviously we know everything that's happening. We know that the margins favor him by quite a bit. But at the same time, he doesn't want to throw this game away. Imagine that he misjudges the strength of his forces, and the next thing you know, he throws away a game where he had such a big lead. And I just want to say something. There is a window here. As crazy as it sounds, Numudan is now up to a decent amount of manners. And he's got 90 spearmen.
It's frustrating to watch because SAS is letting Numudan get back into this game because Numudan needed time, and SAS is giving it to him. If he's not willing to ever, I mean, having 5,000 gold in the bank is great, but if you never spend it, you're not getting the value out of it. That's kind of where, like, I'm looking at this going, even if you don't know what your opponent has, you know what you have, and you know you can replace what you have and your max pop. It just makes sense to spend it and just to force your opponent to match because you know you're ahead. Like, even if you don't know by how much, the timing just feels like it's critical.
And I've seen this before. You want to be cautious with fights like this if you're SAS. You have a massive lead in this game, but slamming knights into spearmen is not something that you can sustain in the long run. It might seem like you can. Next thing you know, we're going to talk about, how millions of resources were lost in this. I think, make no mistake, I think SAS still has a gigantic lead, but I've seen games being lost simply by slamming knights into spearmen endlessly.
Yeah, and that's kind of why, the tempo, when you know your opponent just clicked up, that was the time to just full send it. And I wish he had, because while those spears don't have veterancy, you're fully imperially upgraded. That was the time where you could take that trade and it would be effective, maximum effect you can have. Now, like you kind of mentioned, it's not as efficient anymore. And suddenly, Numudan's had time to get into this. Obviously,
this is huge.
The cannon's doing a lot of work.
Military tactics training just finished for Numudan.
Oh gosh,
he's getting plus 20% bonus damage on his spears now.
I really want to see those Baldicans do some work. There's one shot. One pops. The other, it's a shot. Not super effective. I don't know if those were worth the money.
Can we look at those spears, though? I just want to see the bonus damage against cavalry at this point.
Plus
there
39.
we go.
Oh my goodness.
And they decrease the enemy armor as well because they do have the billhooks.
Man, I really wish he'd have just pushed in right when Numudan went Imperial. He was at max population. He had the capability, because once you wipe your opponent off the floor, Numudan is looking at food. He does not have a ton. He is spending it as fast as he can.
Uh-oh. Speaking of food, though, look at SAS. There's a threshold here where things turn around. It's when the fish run out. It feels so convenient that you have so much fish and you don't have to worry about the farm transition. But it leaves you vulnerable at some point deep in Imperial where you suddenly have to make a farm switch.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that Numudan's still in this. And again, this is when players playing not to lose. So they're being cautious, and sometimes that pays off. This is one of those things where I think recognizing the tempo would have really helped, because SAS could have closed the door on this game easily.
I mean, he still should.
He still should.
It's 80 knights now. He deleted Eco, and there's a Sacred Site timer for him, so he's just waiting for his opponent to push. I would love to see him have something more against mass spears, though. Anything. 2 Robodoquins, nice. Make it 5. Because notice that, again, his food income slowly started dipping, and there is... Obviously, gold is still there, but you don't want to fight, knights into spearmen for a long, long time.
At this point, I think SAS has just consigned himself to not killing his opponent, but doing the Sacred Site victory, which, I mean, it's the safe option at this point. He's fortified it. He's spent enough time doing the things he needs to, so now that is a valid win condition. I think he could have saved himself some time and done it, 10 minutes earlier, but if it works, it works.
I don't blame him. There is a 5th resource. It's population. These knights are very population efficient, but at the same time, so I understand why he doesn't want to pivot away from them, but at the same time, this is not a fight that you want to take. That's a lot of spears. Look at that.
I mean, he's got their Baldicans behind there, and if he falls back to his choke points, he'll be fine. I mean, there's so many knights here. Cost efficient wise, this is a good trade for Numudan, just because it's a good trade when you're going right into your counter. But at the end of the day,
I love how SAS ran out of patience. This is what was supposed to happen 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. All I needed was to take a head-on fight.
This wasn't the knights winning you the game, this was the economy winning you the game, because the cost efficiency of these fights were abysmal. It's just the fact that you had such a big advantage with the economy. The trade, the shorefish, totally untouched. If we take a look at the overall resources gathered, I think that's going to tell us the whole story.
Yeah, I think he could have done that fight a lot. The moment Numudan was in Imperial Age, he had all the upgrades and had 80 knights almost. He could have done that from the get-go. Just needed to realize that he had that advantage.
51k gold against 15,000. That is the thing that wins you the game, not the knights slammed into spearmen.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we said. He had the bankroll for it, right? You're forcing your opponent to try and replace what they have, and at that point, he didn't have any gold or any food, so you can afford to you can't do that indefinitely, obviously, but when you know your opponent can't possibly have as big of a bankroll as you do it once or twice and you win the game. So we got some fun stats here. Cow has gone through and looked at some stuff. Oh my gosh. So many. 215 spears versus 197 knights.
197 knights is crazy. But you know what my favorite stat is? Like, this game was 33 minutes, 33 seconds long. That's my favorite stat.
Make a wish, honey. 60 traders in the end total, or SAS.
I mean,
he only lost 2.
That was the issue from the very beginning for Numudan. There is a window where your manners in like late feudal, early castle, they can still pick up the pace of the trade, but eventually, if you do not harass that trade, it's just going to snowball out of control. That applies to every single game, by the way. Like, if you have untouched trade, you will have a better economy than anything else that's available in the game, and that is exactly what we've seen. It's not a new thing, it's just the fact that in most cases, getting an untouched trade is difficult because most players will just try to shut it down.
This was kind of a crucial fight right here where the Demolancers, it looked like Numudan had an equal number of forces, but a lot of that was Demolancers, which aren't as strong as Knights, and the Royal Bloodlines had already ticked in, and we saw that. That was a really good trade right there for SAS. This fight as well, another close trade. This one worked out a little bit better for Numudan than SAS, but again, kind of even up the Knights again. And
but by
SAS,
this time,
at this point, just had the stuff to replace this very quickly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, by this time, minute 18, this was a 33-minute game. By minute 18, there was a definitive eco lead for SAS. So really, what we've seen in 50 minutes later is not a result of anything but this massive eco lead that has been there for quite some time. So it wasn't just in the final 5 minutes we had a massive eco gap. The eco gap was there for so long, more than 15 minutes.
You can see the point where the Knights were just so much that the spears don't even matter anymore. Just walking through. Well, that's not our series decider, however. We have a best of 5 on our hands, so we've got another game coming up. It's going to be Baldland with Zushi and Byzantines coming up right after this.
Baldland. Now, I talked about this at the beginning of the series. I was surprised to see Malians go on Gorge, because Baldland is, I think, one of the go-to maps for Malians. And then I was surprised to see Lancaster go on Frisian Marshes, because, frankly, Frisian Marshes is the only map where I think Lancaster would be like underwhelming with that turtle and strat. That felt like a counterpick or would-be counterpick to French Knights. Didn't work out. I would have been interested in seeing the House of Lancaster being used on Baldland, though, because having that passive resource income, having the passive income of wood would have been very helpful on a map like this. But instead, we are going to have Jushi and the Byzantines here. Numudan now down 2-1 against SAS. SAS with the color blue using the Byzantines. And on the other side, Numudan with Jushi's legacy in red.
Yep, it's match point. SAS moves on and wins with a win here. Numudan takes it the distance if he can get the win himself here on Baldlands. This is an interesting map. The deer, or 2 packs of deer, are always in the center of the map. So Pro Scouts has often been used, especially by civs such as like China and Zushi. I'd be surprised if we didn't see Pro Scouts being used on this one, just because all that food up front, not a lot in your base. You can bring that home and have a lot to go off of. Byzantine's obviously a decent pick here because there's lots of berry packs in the back of the base. Looks like SAS is going to have 4 different berries around the corner of his air map to work with. We do see that cistern right there. I don't know how I feel about that. I wish they had started with 1 extra stone. That little build they have to do in the beginning now has been changed with the cistern costs basically standardized across all cisterns. They used to scale, and now it's the same price for every single one, but it means you don't have quite enough stone in the Dark Age. You have to go out and mine a little bit to get enough. Juicy. It looks like we have the village opening. That fun little strat where you chop a tree and then build a mill while it's being supervised to get just enough wood to build that village. A neat little trick. We do see the sheep. If I had to take a quick guess, looks like SAS has maybe just 1 or 2 extra over Numudan at the moment. It's 8 right there, coming back home for Numudan. I'm sure they'll work their way all the way back to that mill, getting the supervision bonus.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this matchup right now because this is not a civilization combination that you commonly see on bald land. So what is, especially when I look at, let's say, Jushi, it's not a civilization that strikes me as one that can really avoid using a lot of wood. Now, Meditation Gardens is going to be a nice passive source of income, so there is that. But I wonder if we're going to see like a semi-fast castle style setup, and well, as I'm saying that, that's such an interesting Medi Gardens. It's nice, it has gold, a lot of food, but it's not something that gets you any wood, which, again, it's going to be so interesting how the players navigate around the low amounts of wood that is available on this map.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's one of those things where it's kind of like when teams, draft players in like professional sports, right? You just pick the best guy that's on the board. In this case, I think Numudan picked the best spot that's going to give him the most resources that he could see on the map. And that spot has the most resources, even if it doesn't include wood.
Yeah, I can see that. Sometimes BPA is the best approach, but sometimes you have a positional need and you just have to address that.
Yeah, that's true. That's equally true. I didn't say it was always the correct methodology, just that it was a methodology. But yeah, I'm curious to see how much you'll get for that, because I mean, two golds, the deer, berries. I mean, there is that one tree. I don't know if that one tree does any help. They got a little tree on the left side there. Just no, a little more north. Our observer's trying to find it. That one right there. Yeah, I don't know if that'll count for anything, but it's there. Technically in the range.
It's something.
It's something. I don't think that'll actually count. It'd be fascinating if he does get like one a minute for that. It'd be hilarious. Regardless, it's going to be the Grand Winery for SAS as the Byzantines. And a great spot, actually. Berries in the back. Oh, love it. Byzantines and their back berries. They do enjoy it a lot. And immediately clicks up with wheelbarrow. Second cistern underway. Love the placement of that. Pretty good sheep haul from SAS as well. He's got a lot under there. The ironic thing is nice. Byzantines don't need it. Like, they really don't. Like, he'll take it, obviously, because, sheep he has is sheep away from his opponent. So, no, the one tree does not count for any wood. Looks like it's going to be 25 gold and 18 food. Maybe that doesn't feel like a great spot for the gardens. It doesn't feel like that's a whole lot of resources there. I would have thought it'd be... Okay, 30... Okay, still ticking up. Okay.
Yeah, it's ticking up.
Better. I was going to say, wait a minute, that's not as much as I thought it'd be.
Ooh. Now, Pro Scouts on the way here for Numudan. So, he's going to play Pro Scouts. Not much from SAS to contest it. Is there anything coming? Yeah, just the Mercenary House.
That's going to be too slow. Dear, I was expecting Numudan to go...
Here?
Against Zushi. I mean, the tricky thing is Jugunu are just tough. No.
Yeah, you're playing Keshik.
I think, yeah. Jugunu are kind of a thorn in your side, but I don't think you have much of a choice here. The Keshik, to help try and slow the Pro Scouts down, you kind of have to. 50 gold. Okay, there. That's more like it. Okay, 50 gold and 36 food. That's a good return. Immediately, some spears getting ready to go for Numudan. He just knows exactly what to expect. He's already anticipating those Keshiks coming out. Knows what kind of game he wants to play. I feel like Numudan's kind of dictating the pace right here. Like, he's going Pro Scouts. SAS is going to have to react to that.
Yep. He certainly has to. I love how Numudan is splitting his scouts, by the way. Like, there's one going to the north. There's one yoinking deer from this middle part. There's one carrying carcasses from just next to Numudan's base. So he really is trying to minimize the impact of any harassment. And it makes a lot of sense. One problem that you have with the Keshik out here, with the Mercenary House, is that you don't really have a lot of production available to you. So you're now going to have 2 Keshik, great, but if the scouts are going in 5 directions, you cannot shut down the whole process.
Yeah, that's something I love to do when I go Pro Scouts, is send them, don't go to all in one pack, send them out for exactly the reasons you stated. Like, spread your opponent wide, because you're only going to get a couple Keshik, and they cannot be everywhere at once. Palace Guard is an interesting choice. I actually kind of thought it'd be Spears. Instead, he's opting for the heavy, fast-running boy. Those Palace Guards, man, they run as if their feet are angry with the earth. They are so quick. The first Keshik arrive, looking for some kills on the villagers. They could just pop into the village if they really wanted to. Palace Guard Kind of running at him. I don't feel like palace guards trade particularly well into Keshik. That's why I really kind of thought spears, but they are fast, so that kind of is a bonus, I suppose. Now there's a spear. I like the mix. I like the mix. A little back and forth here. These two guys really know how to play the cat and mouse, so they just back and forth, back and forth. I always get my knight stuck on spears, but that's why I'm not in this tournament. I'm just casting it. Cistern of the First Hill. So
okay.
We're gonna get the gulp. All right. This build, I feel like this build polarizes the fan base a lot of AoE4. I feel like some people are like, yeah, gulp. And then there's other people who are like, oh my gosh, not this again. I feel like I live on the side of, I don't feel like it's actually crazy good. Like, I don't think it's that powerful all the time. But when it happens, I do kind of enjoy watching it. So I guess I'm a casual Cistern of the Hill gulp fan.
It's a very open map, and generally speaking, when you play Cistern of the First Hill, you play into cavalry for healing, obviously. So I see the synergy in there. It's definitely implying that SAS is going to play full into cavalry and just use mobility, stretch the field. And that could be dangerous against Numudan, because Numudan is definitely struggling keeping track of all these small groups of cavalry, and I feel like SAS just wants to mimic what he did in the previous game. Just use the mobility and stretch out the defenses of an otherwise static player.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a good job of trying to be everywhere. You know, obviously he can't be, but he can split up in a number of ways. Sholan Monastery coming up right now. Clicked up right at about 9 minutes. Pretty quick castle timing. You see SAS is already preparing to get onto the gold. Waiting to get those cataphracts heading out. I think the first one's already in queue. There's the first little bit of gulping. Takes a sip from his flask. I love that they added the word gulp onto it. Details like that are what make this game really great, in my opinion. A lot of spears and palace guards for Numudan. Kind of posturing right on that gold, keeping him away. And in come the Keshiks looking for blood. They're like sharks in the water, just sniffing out where those vills are. You know that they're hungry, but seeing the prickly spears walk up, they're going to decide to take a moment. Wait for the cataphracts to join them.
Yeah, cataphracts now on the way. Now, this is always a tricky matchup, because as much as SAS has the mobility advantage, he also doesn't have the tools to fight directly into that many spearmen. So that is something that he needs to be very much aware of. If Numudan starts walking towards his base, especially with that forward gold mine, he needs to find a way to protect that.
Deer still being gathered by Numudan. Obviously, I've mentioned this a couple times today, but Zushi needs their food so desperately, so it makes a lot of sense why a Civ would go for this when it just synergizes so well with their playstyle. In come the cavalry, looking to be the evil horde. A lot of Keshik, so I can say Mongol horde, as they try to drive in. Going around, spears right in time to save the day, backing them off. It's almost like swatting at a fly that just keeps buzzing around, you know, trying to keep them away from your food.
It feels that way. And I mean, ideally, you want to slap that fly down, but that has not been the case so far. Numudan is piling up a lot of food and gold, though.
Yeah, he could almost go castle again. I mean, I guess he could build the second landmark. Not sure why he would, though. I don't know that it would gain him a whole lot right this minute. Feels like at this point, SAS has invested a lot and is waiting for that payoff, looking for a good angle, but Numudan, ever alert, sends his spears chasing, and it sends a group, kind of splits them in half. So half stay home, the other half charge. Those palace guards, again, are pretty quick, but when they're marching with the spears, obviously a little bit slower. We see some cataphracts looking for more picks. Meanwhile, scouts still doing their thing. You know, we haven't had a single worker kill yet. In fact, destroyed value is only at 100 and 200. Not a lot of damage done either way. It's been mostly posturing. We see some of the first kills happening right here. A Sholan monk trying to take over the relic. Instead, SAS manages to sneak it one away. That's going to be number 3 for him if he can get it home. Chillin' monks are an interesting unit. Difficult to deal with. Tanky in the weirdest ways, but not terribly powerful either. SAS charging around, looking for stuff to do with his knights and Keshiks. Cataphracts and Keshiks finding some spears for their ill fortune. Another one goes down there. As the Keshiks walk around, man, with such an open base, these spears posturing everywhere make it really tough. It's almost as if there are walls everywhere. Except for this time, the walls kill you. I kind of almost wish that SAS would...
spears. We are looking at a huge flood of spears at this point, and again, the concern for SAS is that he doesn't have the tools to fight into this. So
I kind of want him to go Varangian guards really badly. I feel like that would help.
Varangians would be awesome here. Like
he's going to opt to go archers. He'll go archers instead.
I don't like.
I mean, I think he's got Ghulams in queue.
It works. Ghulams are nice as well, but Varangians would be such a clutch.
Not going to get anything. That was close.
Remember, you do have Gulp here, so that's going to help keep your units alive. And this is not the whole
from the
army of
Cataphracts.
Numudan. That's the big problem for him. He's got 34 spearmen. You only have a fraction of those up here, so a small group gets cleaned up.
Pretty good engagement overall from SAS. He didn't lose too much. Mostly Keshiks went down. At this point, I feel like he can kind of, 86 the Keshiks. We can kind of put those away. I don't think they're going to be much more use moving forward. Archers, though, definitely going to make an impact here in a second. Crossbows starting to come out and trickle forth from Numudan, looking to deal a more permanent solution to the Cataphracts that have been ever so tiresomely running around his base. This is another game where it feels like we're waiting for someone to blink. These guys, it really does feel like heavyweights going at it. They are just doing little jabs, not committing their full weight into it, backing off, not being overly destructive to begin with, waiting for the right moment.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think in this case, though, SAS is, again, happy to wait because he just needs a little window to build up his archer count. Notice what Numudan is doing. He's making a switch into knights, but he doesn't have a lot. He's got crossbows, and he's got a lot of spears. So archers would work really well here for SAS. And in hindsight, the fact that he plays archers instead of Varangians means that the crossbows won't have much of a use against these. Obviously, they will be useful against the Cataphracts, but that's something that SAS is just trying to keep away from this fight.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth. The archers getting kited just a little bit. A couple go down, but the main mass still alive. He's still on the berries. SAS has yet to start really transitioning into olive groves. I feel like those are some kind of things you want to start trickling in as you go. 15 minutes in the game, I would have expected to see 4 of those at least by now. Instead, he's just still on the berries, which there are plenty of berries, and they haven't been touched yet. These Lancers might encourage him to think otherwise of not doing so just yet, because if they ever decide to break away and go around the backside, this could be really dangerous. Instead, chasing down the archers, getting a couple picks. Knights and Cataphracts turn around. Archers back and forth. This is some really intense micros. They're just kind of trying to minimize each other's losses.
Army counts are still neck and neck here. Do keep in mind, though, we are getting to the stage where map control becomes vital. This is where you start depleting the wood inside your base. This is where you start depleting your starting gold mine. So whoever has the momentum in the next few minutes could easily dictate the tempo of the game from here on out. For SAS, I think the tricky part is dealing with these spears. He doesn't want to commit the Cataphracts before he cleans up the spears and crossbows, but he kind of has to.
I think he can now. Most of them are gone. I think he needs to get onto that back line ASAP. Those Cataphracts, most of them are gone. He needs to get through, and there's the charge. I was wondering when he'd do that, because the spears are all but gone now. He needs to get onto those crossbows somehow, some way. Instead, it takes a lot of damage for his effort. Archers trying to pick him out one by one. Ghulams going down. And those Lancers ever present. He doesn't have a great answer for the Lancers yet. At this point, there's enough crossbows, enough Lancers. I would consider switching into Limitane.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Limitani is not something that crossbows, especially with the shield wall, would work well against. I was going to say that the problem that SAS was facing is that you cannot commit the Cataphracts until the spearmen and the crossbows are gone. You cannot fight a Cataphract versus Lancer fight when you have 25 crossbows on the back line. But at the same time, as he was pulling back, he was being picked apart, so he just had to turn and fight. At the end of the day, he takes an even-ish engagement. But you're absolutely right, you need to find a way to adapt your composition, because this is, again, something that we see commonly in competitive games. Crossbows, once you start getting to 20, 30, 40, they actually become a really nice, like, frontline unit almost. They are good against almost everything. They will be fine trading against 14 archers. That's going to be no problem for them either.
I think you hit on the important part, though, is that, like, I'm saying, oh yeah, limits and A are the obvious choice, but the problem is the macro. SAS doesn't have wood. Wood access in this map is very limited, and so going mass limits and A is not really a viable choice without a lot of work around that to do that. And so he's kind of stuck in his composition right now, knowing that, yeah, if I could have 30 limits and A right now, he would take it. But he doesn't really have a great in towards that. He needs to get on a wood line somewhere.
The mobility advantage is still on the side of SAS, though. Well, actually, I'm saying that. There's a big switch from Numudan to Lancers. We've seen some Lancers before, but now he's really just like Lancer crossbow. That is a combination that's very difficult to beat, even with Limitan. Because mostly these are premium units. And a problem that SAS is facing is that the archers will become very obsolete very soon. You cannot even focus down the crossbows because you have to get so close to the knights that the knights will just start beating you up as you focus down the crossbows.
Yeah, he needs a comp switch. SAS is falling behind here. It's pretty dead even across the numbers, but you just feel like tech-wise, he's chosen the wrong composition, and it just doesn't feel like it's going to keep working. Like, something is going to break. It's been a cat and mouse game thus far, but those Lancers, I just don't know that SAS has a good enough answer, because Cataphracts have a high base damage, but gosh, with crossbows doing DPS behind it, and now with Nested Beast adding insult to injury, those archers for SAS really can't stand and even fight off the crossbows at all now. Lancers are going to get there, and if they don't, the Nested Beast will. Big fight here. Big charge. Excellent charge by SAS, diving in. Gutsy, but he's going to lose a lot of these.
Yeah, I think he's just happy to trade, though, and he has his crossbows arrive as well. Gulp helps a lot here, actually, for those Cataphracts to stay alive just a little longer. And it looks like it's going to be an even-ish trade, which I don't know who actually benefits from that. But at the end of the day, Cataphracts are gone, Lancers are gone, Archers getting traded off. It looks like Numudan is actually winning this fight just by a tiny margin. Random Shaolin Monk just joining the fight just for fun.
Yeah, it's the crossbows. The fact that he has 19 still on the field is a big problem for SAS. He has no answer. If he had like a Mangonel, you can manage it. Because the difference in this was that Numudan had the Nested Bees, and it got at least one shot off. Whereas SAS does not have an equivalent. Otherwise, it was fairly even. But at the end of the day, 19 crossbows still walking around is a big, big problem. I mean, at this point, like, you start wondering, maybe horsemen, maybe like anything, because the spearmen are gone. But you got to get on those crossbows some way, somehow, because right now they're just going to keep chewing them up.
We got to look at the base of SAS, though, because the production really wasn't there. And I wonder why. Maybe he was making, he's slowly adding groves. He's got a slight relic lead, but we got to take a tally of the economies right now, because it really feels like SAS is not doing much right now. Look at the production. Kashyyyk Q, nothing else. There's definitely no farm transition just yet for Numudan. And SAS had the 2 sacred sites. He actually started a timer. But at the same time, he's making a hard switch into Horseman now. That's why he's not queuing anything. He needs to do something with the 1,000 gold he has, by the way. He's actually floating a lot of gold. Yeah,
he needs to build a market. Again, wood is just so crucial in this game. And it doesn't happen right away. But when it happens, and the lack of wood has really just been like shoestringing SAS. He's got all the gold in the world, and he's got nothing to spend it on. Meanwhile, Numudan is going to need to think about farm transitioning. We see he's getting double broad axe right now. I think he's thinking about a farm transition in the future, because once the deer run out, he will need to supplement that food again. And I think he's getting close to that point. Yeah, it's a really late double broad axe.
Ecotechs in general look better for SAS, but he's down by 9 villagers. He has an army being sent to the north to raid, though, and this is where I think he can really make a difference. He has always been the player with the more cavalry. If he can find targets like this, find the berries in the corner, that could be huge. He's kind of deprived of vision, and he's just not able to find the villagers, though. You feel like you're missing out on an opportunity here if you're SAS.
If only he had a scout with that. Because instead he torched the blacksmith and alerted Numudan to what was happening. And gosh, if he had just had a scout and some more vision, some more knowledge, he could maybe have done something there, because there were a lot of vills out of position right there, just asking to be slain.
Yeah, trenches are being dug now, both players walling themselves off. Key thing though, Numudan is walling himself off such that he has access to the large wood line. That is not the case for SAS just yet. At the same time, SAS has completed a farm transition and Numudan is very much just now getting started. I think that is a window that SAS could leverage. If he makes a hard horseman switch, what he needs to do is find a way to bypass the defenses and hit the eco. Horsemen against all these crossbows, and you can see Numudan is starting to lose out on the food eco. This is the window where the farm transition is about to happen for Numudan, and that's going to leave him vulnerable for quite some time.
Yeah, he's been surviving off of the deer and the other surrounding resources. He bought himself a ton of time, and it's worked for about 23 minutes. Unfortunately, we're going to see that number of food start dipping down. Now, he is, of course, going into granaries right now, so he'll have that food sustained, but it's taken some time. This is why he hasn't been able to capitalize on SAS's inherent weakness, which is giving SAS enough time to maybe do something, but in about 5 minutes after these grain farms go up, it's going to get really scary for SAS, even though he's got his own farms and stuff set up.
Yeah, I think if you're SAS, you're still very much on the back foot. One thing I don't like about him is that he's still wide open on the north. He hasn't yet secured a large gold vein. Look at the difference in the walls. When Numudan is done with these walls, he's going to have access to the large wood line, and he's going to have his large gold vein walled off. Neither of these are applicable for SAS. So he's going to be much more open, and he's also down by 10 villagers, which is an interesting differential considering that you only have 4-1 in terms of villager kills. It's got to be a heavy cavalry push, though. 14 cashing 13 horsemen, though. And you also have 21 crossbows.
He's got a good mass now. He's got a good set. The crossbows are pretty nice. He's got to be careful with the nest of bees. But I do like that he's gone into cav, because Numudan's got 8 spears. He's going to have like 12 spears. That's not enough for me to be scared with, 20, 30 some odd, cavalry.
SAS's army is much better right now. It's much, much better. And, this could be huge. If Numudan pays attention to the fight on the front line, he could be hit from behind with those lancers. Looks like he did notice the swing coming in from the north. He moves away from the berries. Indeed, no one home. The walls will not be complete in time, and there's an opportunity here for SAS to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, Lancers in the back trying to clean up the raid. This is an opportunity for SAS to dive in through the middle. We see the crossbows moving out from home. Got the orders, and they're heading out. Raid kind of walking around the back. It is kind of such an open map. It's so hard to wall in. Oh, I feel like this is his chance to get in there and get on the farms. He's just kind of posturing out there, though.
I think...
And again, that's a lot of nest of bees.
I want to draw a point of comparison between this game and the previous one. In the previous one, we talked about how SAS was very, very cautious not to throw away his cavalry horde. And in that case, he could afford it, because he was the player with a better economy. That is not the case right now. Right now, he's actually behind. Like, if he is as cautious as he was in the previous game, he's going to let Numudan boom up, and once that farming eco gets rolling, I think it's Chushi all along. Looks like SAS knows this too, however, and he's a lot more aggressive than he was in the previous game.
Yeah, he's got a large mass right here, and you're sitting on the front door, and it seems like nobody's home. He seems to be thinking he can get a good engagement here. Crossbow stepping up to deal with the Lancers. This is a great engagement. Numudan's army is split in half. That could have gone much worse. Thankfully, the rest of the stuff came marching in.
It's 4 nest
could have
of bees.
Been disastrous. Yeah, a lot of nest of bees. SAS is going to need to find some kind of way to flank with exceptional skill. Maybe with a little bit of luck.
Yeah. Second DC up for Numudan, though. Like, now it's blatantly clear that if SAS has his push stall out, he's going to lose the game on economy. I don't think he's adding new TCs himself. What he needs to do is leverage this mobility. Start stretching the field. The nest of bees are notoriously slow. All you gotta do is make sure you never fight these nest of bees.
Yeah, he's got like 2 separate militaries. He's got the cavalry on one side here in the south. He's got the long range stuff up to the north. Just looking for a spot to poke.
I would love to see Mangonel emplacements on the towers, by the way. Something that we haven't seen from him.
I don't know if I'd say love is the right word. I kind of hate those things, but yes, that would be the correct choice would be to make those mangonel towers. They are so good. We're just surround these right here. Are those the spearmen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a little,
Put those crossbows
I think it's
on
a
them or
bait.
something.
I think Numudan was trying to bait his opponent into a fight there, but SAS decided not to take it. Sacred Sites are being capped. That is something that SAS still has. If Numudan is playing very passively and booming, Sacred Sites could be a reasonable victory condition for SAS, but he's just so unwilling to fight.
Yeah, I don't blame him at this point. Those Nest of Bees are really scary. And the spears right behind don't make them very inviting to dive with the cataphracts.
I think
he needs to get on the base. He needs to start doing raids behind this. Like, the base is
doing
wide
it now.
open.
That's what you gotta do.
He baited them
I think
outside
he
the base.
was waiting
he's
for
running
Numudan
in.
to overextend, and now you dive in. The name of the game is killing villagers without losing your cavalry, though.
Oh,
You're
he
not
needs to ignore this and just move in. He just needs to ignore these and just dive. Find the farms. The farms, SAS. Of course, he doesn't know where they are. He hasn't seen them yet.
There we
He does have these two back there, so he sees them now. Only 5 villager kills to 4. He hasn't done a lot of damage yet. Getting a couple here, though.
That's the big thing.
Yet's doing a lot of work. That's fair.
He needs to do a lot of work because he's down by a town center as well. There is something here on this wood line, by the way. I think he might have been trying to place towers behind it just to the night. Yeah, well, lumber camp, other stuff. He's definitely trying to find ways to hit Numudan's eco, but this time around, Numudan is very much tucked away in the corner, and this is a horrible fight here for SAS.
Yeah, he's gonna have to retreat from that. Spears doing their job. Nest of Bees just adding insult to injury. However, the raid in the back coming in as we speak in 3, 2, 1, and there they are.
They gotta find something, though.
They gotta find him. Numudan, ever present on his base, knows where to get it. Now, getting these kills gives him bonus gold. That's 40 gold he got for that. So trading these, these horsemen out for that is worth the money, really.
It certainly feels that way. Especially because, remember, Numudan's got a slow-moving army. As long as you run circles around him, just kill every villager, come back next time, do it again and again, and eventually it's gonna grind down his economy. And now the Mangonel Tower is in there, suddenly makes it a lot more difficult for Numudan to just push up the middle. The logic dictates that if you're Numudan, you try to push up the middle simply to punish a player that's running circles around you. But that's difficult to do against Mangonel Towers.
Yeah, and they do really good damage against those spears, too. I mean, obviously, Mangonels typically counter range, but they seem to... The Mangonel Tower emplacements do pretty good damage against everything.
And he's got Springolds. Against an infantry cluster like that, that's also deadly.
I would like to see a couple more before I get super scared, but with the rest of the army around it, it could be pretty good, especially into those spears right there, and could have taken a pot shot or two if he wanted. Not a whole lot of value for him just yet as they back up. Nest of Bees trying to get some shots from on high.
He needs to split up. Both players are thinking about Imperial. If SAS doesn't take a fight here, Numudan is going to click him.
Well, in Byzantines, it takes a while for them to warm up, but that level 5 cistern they get with the full farm transition, that is scary, and it's formidable, and it's one of the best in all the game. Late game is scary as Byzantines.
Yeah, Imperial Age is going to be on the way for Numudan. He's trying to drop a keep as well in the middle. He needs to find a way to decap the sacred site. SAS is definitely playing for it, and oh boy, this was never re-walled. I'm not the biggest fan of trying to target the meditation gardens, though.
Yeah, it's like taking away 2 or 3 vills when you can get a whole bunch more.
No
9
way.
vill kills to 5. This is a big push. That's a lot of vills in that keep. He wants that up come hell or high water. He is going for it. Vills
That's a
going
huge
down,
price to
but
pay.
It won't matter. He's only lost about 10 for that.
I mean, you say that, that's a lot.
I mean, he's on 2 town centers.
Fair. Temple of the Sun is on the way. SAS is going to click in just a moment, too. I think SAS should have tried pushing the cavalry deeper into the farming eco, though, because Numudan had to keep his army on the front line to get this castle up. This farming eco doesn't look very happy.
No, it looks
villagers
very
are missing.
pot marked from a bunch of raids. Lots of empty fields where once glorious villagers stood, now barren and desolate. And they're coming out of the tower, though. They're coming back. They're just building stuff. 21 to 5, though. Some good damage.
Numudan is very heavy on the spears. So I think that is a concern for Numudan right now. The population becomes a resource when you go this late into a game, and spearmen are not premium units. Oh, that could be nasty as well. Trying to snipe the castle, that's not going to happen. But you can get a bunch of villager kills, and this is what SAS needed.
Massive damage. Oh my goodness, look at the numbers tick up to 30 total killed. That keep, not only does he get all the kills, he denies this keep. This one was not worth it. Massive damage. Numudan hemorrhaging vills.
And I think he needs to dive even deeper. He has an opportunity to seal the series right here. The castle gets cancelled. You can just run past all of this and hit the eco, because now you're dictating the tempo of the game.
SAS is going to back up regardless, though. They keep take two. You know, that first one fell into the swamp. The second one is hopefully going to not fall over and fall into the swamp as well. He's going to try and build this one up. I think he will get that. And we've got, man, such an interesting moment in this game where SAS has really, it's gone back and forth where we feel like Numudan's had the advantage, then SAS, now Numudan, now SAS. This whole series has been pretty back and forth as well. And now it just feels like they're kind of gearing up for the late game. Everyone in Imperial Age, all the tech's coming through. And now we got to start considering long-term gold.
Now, here's the thing. Numeri is coming in for SAS. That means that the units he tramples with his cataphracts will receive bonus damage for a short amount of time. And that could be enough to break this front line of spearmen. That's a lot of springolds, crossbows. And I think what he's going to try to do is trample through these lines, hit the nest of bees, and then dive.
I mean, those nest of bees are what's holding him back, right? He cannot fully engage with those things sitting there. So if he can trample them and get through, he would definitely trade a handful of cataphracts to do so. Problem is, there's 68 spears on the map at the moment. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to get stabbed by one of those, let alone 68.
Fair
I think
point.
SAS is thinking the same thing for his men as they kind of chase the one Keshik in particular. Sorry, not Lancer, I should say.
Sacred Site countdown down to 5 minutes. SAS is definitely trying to force an engagement here. He's waiting for his opponent to move for the Sacred Site, and he's trying to force him into a bad engagement. There's a gap in the wall to the south still, and I think SAS still has the opportunity to detach the cavalry. I wonder if he's going to try doing that.
Yeah, the keep is only a speed bump down there. The wall is wide open. And a big engagement. Mutane meeting spear on spear. Numbers.
Yeah, from the south.
Heavily in favor of the charge from the south, getting onto the nest of bees. Cataphracts with a charge while gulping. And I don't know how many nest of bees just got popped. It looked like 2 at least. Third one about to go down. 2 more really weak.
Oh, man,
this is a great fight for SAS. Reinforcements coming in for Numudan as crossbows and spears flood into the area.
You got to be careful about the springolds, though. A lot of the army count for SAS is springolds without a true front line. It was a great charge, and he gets rid of the nest of bees, but he cannot push any deeper for now. He needs to regroup a little. Lancers are coming in here. Well, Numudan's one Lancer. But he has an opportunity to take out this keep, and most importantly, he gets rid of all those nest of bees, and suddenly the power balance is totally different.
Yeah, that was worth the trade. He pulled back at the perfect time, stopped while he was ahead. It could have gone over, it could have overextended easily, but backed off at the right moment, kept the siege alive. And now with the cannon, the keep's gone. Suddenly, SAS starting to feel in command. He is up on the villager count. Numudan just barely creeping back up with his 2 town centers.
And it's 4 minutes. 4 minutes on the Sacred Site timer. And
41
remember,
vills have been killed.
If Numudan launches a push against this position, SAS can still detach the cavalry, concede the Sacred Site, and just say, well, you can have the Sacred Site, I'll dive your base, and I will wipe out 40 villagers. So it's a 1-2 punch. The fact that you are forcing your opponent to move against the Sacred Site allows you to potentially expose the otherwise open eco.
I kind of wish Numudan would send a little bit of just a couple Lancers around the back and hit SAS's eco. Like, he's been hit so many times and hasn't walled off. You gotta know SAS is open as well. So another big engagement comes in. Limitani on spears once again. Cannons up front, sniping the bombard. In come the springolds from behind, ready to deal some damage. They're walking way too close to the sun. Firing though. Cannons at risk of being lost, charging from the cataphracts in the middle. Meanwhile, the crossbows in the back still shooting in nest of bees, though there's only one I see, trying to do some damage. I think SAS is losing his front line.
This has been the problem.
Almost down.
Most of his army were springolds and the front line wasn't there. He did a really good job using the Royal Cannon to take out the Nest of Bees, but there was just nothing else behind it. And oh no, he's now pulling villagers. He's all-inning the Sacred Site victory.
All in the Sacred Site victory with 3 minutes, and an elephant to the rescue. Tower Elephant as Byzantines coming in. Didn't think I had that on my bingo card either. Here he comes. That's actually a pretty good counter to some of these crossbows. Meanwhile, the cannon's going down. SAS needs to pump units faster than he can ever do.
Crossbows are gone on the other side, however, and the Cataphract will just annihilate all these palace guards. Sacred Site's still being held. Crossbows are slowly disappearing. Now it's now or never for SAS. He's lost way too many villagers for this. He needs to all-in this now. 3 minutes feels like an eternity, however.
I don't know if he can do it. This villagers trying to get some kind of production, some kind of defense is up. That Tower Elephant doesn't have enough health. It's doing a good amount of work, but I think it's dead. And the Sacred Site will quickly fall hereafter.
I seriously believe that the biggest problem here was, again, like sometimes you have to take direct fights. But the best moments for SAS in this game came when he detached the cavalry and hit the eco. If he did that one more time, he could have just totally crumbled Numudan. Numudan didn't have a juggernaut economy, but at the same time, he had a massive force of crossbows and spearmen, and I just feel like I'm seeing a repeat of the previous game's fights. The only difference is that this time around, SAS did not have the eco advantage to allow him to take such fights.
Yeah, this was quite the game here. It feels like the scales have finally tipped too far. SAS threw everything in the kitchen sink at this, and unfortunately for him, has come up empty as the Sacred Site is empty and no longer under his control. The win condition he was relying so heavily on is gone. It felt like it was a long shot for a while. Had 3 minutes seems like not the time to commit all the way. Like 45 seconds, a minute and 10, maybe. As we see the Palace Guards now streaming in, and all those bill kills. It's now 50 to 41 bill kills.
This game was over the moment SAS pulled all the villagers to defend the Sacred Site. From there on out, it wasn't a matter of who's gonna. Well, it wasn't a matter of what's gonna happen next. It was obvious that if SAS loses the Sacred Site, he just lost all his eco for nothing. Now there is just no way back into this, and really, I think when it comes to this game, and when it comes to both this game and the previous one, I think the overall conclusion is that SAS has always been dictating the tempo of the game. He had the ability to flank around, but sometimes he was just playing either a little too cautiously or a little too overzealous. Like, in some cases, he was willing to slam his cavalry straight into spears, and in other cases, he was reluctant to try and dive into the enemy base and try to find villagers. And I think those priorities need to be reassessed going into game number 5. Otherwise, he's going to risk falling victim of the same crossbow spearman composition again.
Yeah, I agree. Really tough match there. Back and forth and back and forth. It felt like Numudan had an advantage a couple different times, and SAS just kept bringing it just within reach. But yeah, I agree with your assessment entirely. I think he committed when he shouldn't have, and then didn't commit when he needed to as well. It's one of those things where it's hard to know. You don't know. He doesn't see everything we see, and so it can be hard to make the correct decision. But sometimes, like, there are multiple instances where so many of Numudan's villagers were so exposed, just begging to be massacred, and SAS just didn't quite commit to it or didn't quite find him in time. You can see the graphs kind of tell the story here. Back and forth we went, but in the end, Numudan is taking us to the distance, as it is now a tied series 2-2.
Wow, this has been an awesome series, and most of the other series out there have already finished, so we're definitely going overtime here. And while this game is not the one that we have just witnessed, this is the Frisian Marshes game from before, you can see the similarities in this one. SAS just having full cavalry into spearmen. Here, however, he had twice the eco. And when you look at, for example, this replay from the actual Borderland game, it's a totally different story. He didn't have a decisive eco lead that would have allowed him to take such fights.
Yeah, it feels like both players sometimes play not to lose. And then sometimes they do some kind of, maybe they're getting tired and they do some kind of foolhardy things. But again, they don't have all the knowledge. It's a lot easier to cast than it is to play at this kind of level. And
yeah, man, I certainly feel like
I'm
they're
so
getting
impressed
tired
by both
now.
These guys. I'm so impressed by both these guys. Their micro at this level even still is just so impressive. The amount of times that Numudan's had his head on a swivel and is able to, garrison his vills and keep him safe. A lot of back and forth. I really wasn't sure who was going to win that fight there. SAS, for a moment, I thought had broken through and then just didn't double down when he needed to.
Yeah, I just want to add this. I think this is an important disclaimer. What might seem like inaction from one perspective is really just patience from another. So as much as we say, oh yeah, they are both playing very, very passive and like not willing to commit to fights oftentimes, in many ways, you can also look at this and say, yeah, they're willing to be patient. They're willing to sit this one out and just wait for the right time to attack.
And we've seen that happen too. We've seen that where they've kind of played cat and mouse, then finally dealt the killing blow. It's they say like history is written by the victors, right? So like, it's like when someone makes a decision and it works, you say great idea. If it doesn't work, then you go, oh, blame the decision. But yeah,
look at the villager count now. For a moment, it was 86 to 70 in the favor of SAS, despite Numudan being on 2 TCs. So those cavalry raids obviously worked. And after this fight, I think even this one was fine. Anything that comes after is where things fall apart. Maybe this is where you pull your knights and just say, okay, I've had enough.
Yeah, if you pulled back right here, he kind of got a little greedy. I still think at this point it was an okay trade.
Because I think this second wave is what you cannot fight into. Because if you lose your cavalry, you lose the ability to threaten the food eco. I think that was a big thing. He just lost way too much cavalry here. Maybe if he tries a run by now with like 13, 14 cav, it could have been interesting. I just feel like he tried to finish the game with the sacred sites, and he didn't have this static defense to make that happen. It's very difficult to defend sacred sites with cavalry. Usually these slow-moving, thoroughly compositions are much, much better at defending sacred sites. So really, it wasn't to the strength of his forces to try and stand and fight here with the cavalry defending sacred sites.
Yeah, it's tough because spear is just so cost-effective into that too. And I think back to when he charged into those nested bees. Like he had to get rid of some of those nested bees. There were too many. They were so powerful. He did a good job. Maybe he just hung around in there and dealing with the spears a little too long. Because it was a decent trade. It wasn't like a sweep where he just won, but he accomplished something so massive. But then it just kind of started teetering, and then the next fight after, all he had was siege in the back. And I kind of wonder if wrenching guards ever would have been a choice. Obviously, the crossbows make that really hard to deal with. So it's tough. It's such a tough spot.
What I would have loved to see is what I would have loved to see is perhaps trying to probe the southern walls with the cavalry. I think that could have been interesting. Yeah. Like, at the very least, give or show the threat to Numudan. Say, okay, if you're not coming after me, make him run after you. I think that is how you have to play this. And we are shifting gears because I think for the first time in this series, really, we're not going to have a very heavy cavalry-focused setup. In fact, it's going to be Delhi versus Ottomans. I wonder what the setup is.
We're going from a heavy cav to light cav.
In the meantime, we can take a look at the brackets here. The 2-2. I think we've gotten ourselves, so far, the biggest nail-biter. Although, as I'm saying, that biggest nail-biter of a series, CSO versus Scatterbrain went 3-2 as well. And you got to give some shout-out to Scatterbrain, because having a decider game forced out of CSO is nothing short of amazing. CSO has been very much playing at a high level in competitive tournaments before. So Scatterbrain almost actually made it to the main event. Cat takes out Core 3-1, Killjoy Corvinus at 1 apiece, and then of course we do have this absolutely magnificent series. Numudan died with SAS at 2 apiece.
We've still got to finish our series, as you said, 2-2. Man, we've had a lot of series that have gone the distance today, and this one, you always kind of hope that the main event will prove exciting, and this one has definitely been no sweep. Both of these players duking it out. We've got one more to go here today for the qualifiers before the main event of the Elite Classic, number 3. Excited to dive into this. I got to imagine too, at this point, it's getting pretty late at night for anyone who's in Europe. So, and you've played a number of games. I know after playing even just 5 games myself, you start getting that fatigue a little bit, especially when games like this last one, where it just kind of dragged on and it was long and hard and difficult to deal with, and you just were kind of struggling through. And then you got to, reset and go again.
It is actually crazy to think about this, but yeah, you're absolutely right. So I think some of it is not just the amount of games they played. It is the length of these games. The previous 2 games were 30 minutes plus each. I think Cliffside was also fairly lengthy. So this has been a long series. It's been going on for quite some time. And it's not just the fact that it's a long series, it's a long set of games. It's also the fact that they are playing an Age of Empires, which requires insane concentration. Some of the high-level games, I want to emphasize, some of them do not require you to like focus 24/7. You can sit back a little and boom because your opponent is doing that, or you just took a fight. There are some moments where you can sit and just chill. That is not the case in this series. The last 2 games, it has always been like the 2 armies were having a face-off, and you look away for a split second and you just get yourself nuked. So throughout these games, they had to pay non-stop attention.
That's how I always play. I look away for a split second and I'm like, oh, where'd my knights go? Gone, all dead. It's so easy. You know, that's some of the cat and mouse games they've had have been just so impressive because they've just been so on it. Just the very small lapses, and we get to see them all because we're just sitting here up in our booth and like looking down at all the easy mistakes, and we point them out as if it's like easy. And of course they should do this. Of course they should push in now. These guys are. I mean, it's 2 a.m. for I think SAS at this point. He's been playing a lot. He's been playing a lot of games, some back and forth, difficult games, and now he's got one more. Numudan, same deal, like one more to do it for all the marbles right here. And we're about to dive in 30 seconds. So it's been a fun day. Fun day with some fun games.
Some interesting trivia here, by the way. Killjardy versus Corvinus, one of the other deciding series that's still going. Game number 1, there was actually a Lancaster versus Knights Templar matchup.
Oh yeah, we haven't seen that one. We didn't get to do any of those today.
Yeah,
who won? Did Templars win that one? I feel like Lancasters. Lancasters had a rough go.
CSO was down 2-0 against CSO was down 2-0 against Scatterbrained and then reverse swept the series. That reverse sweep started with a House of Lancaster win.
Oh, really? Against Templars?
No, that one was against OOTD. Killjardy Corvinus. Killjardy won Gorge with the House of Lancaster against the Templars, but in we go to game number 5. The winner of this game goes into the main event of Elite Classic 3. The loser is going to be out. A lot on the line in what was a nail-biter of a series. SAS with the Ottomans in blue, facing off against Numudan's Delhi in red.
All right, here we go. SAS, of course, very well versed with Ottomans. This is, I believe, Civ. He is, I think we can call it his main Civ. This is one of the ones he really prefers. I don't know if main is the correct defining trait of this Civ, but I know this is one he plays a lot. Might be his main. Numudan as Delhi. We've seen this matchup before. Last time we saw that, Corvinus, I believe, ended up being the victor with Ottomans, actually. So we'll see how this pans out with SAS taking the reins in Ottomans and Numudan behind the Delhi Sultanate.
I wonder how this is going to play out, because the last 2 games have been very much heavy cavalry focused. In fact, come to think of it, all 3 of them. You go back... let me just check the logs. I'm starting to blank out on some of the games. Yeah, you go back to Cliffside even. Cliffside had Templar versus Jeanne d'Arc. That was a heavy cavalry plus infantry micro game. Frisian Marshes, Lancaster versus the French, infantry versus heavy cav. And then Baldland, heavy cav versus spears. So all of these, the last 3 games have followed the same pattern. Every single time SAS was the cavalry player with some auxiliary units, and then Numudan just went for that slow-moving infantry-heavy composition. I wonder how this is going to shape out, because with the Ottomans and the Delhi, it's not so obvious for SAS to just go heavy cav with the Ottomans.
Yeah, I think Sipahi are definitely on the table.
Oh yeah, that's clear.
Definitely expected, but as far as like heavy cavalry, yeah, maybe not. Obviously, Delhi kind of deals with heavy units pretty okay. Aussies obviously get the bonus damage to heavy units, so they can work for a while until things get kind of late in the game. Likewise, elephants kind of can be pretty heavy. I mean, technically that's a heavy cavalry unit, so they could could do quite a bit with that. It feels, again, Ottomans is just as if you don't see tons of anymore, especially on ladder. You do see the early military school, and I think I see this first spear marching off and away, heading in the general direction of Numudan's base. Curious what he's going to go for. Dome of the Faith coming up for Numudan. No tower victory. So if anyone is expecting some incredibly high octane shenanigans, you're gonna have to wait for some medium octane shenanigans in about an age.
Dome of the Faith. I'm looking at the sacred sites, and this is not a good setup for Numudan, I would say. There is one all the way to the far north that's just so far away from everything. One thing that he could do is capture that and then wall it into the edge of the map. That would be fun. The one in the mid-map is kind of out in the open. I'm not a big fan of that. And then the last one to the south is kind of being body blocked by a bunch of forests. So he needs to be careful. As he navigates around those forests, he could easily get caught off guard. So none of these sacred sites are very generous for him, I feel.
Yeah, his whole spawn isn't that great, to be honest. He's got the 1 berries right there. Besides that, the gold's in the front. He's got 2 stone behind him. I don't know if there's an opposite of like the quote-unquote Marine Lord spawn, but whatever the opposite of that is, it's pretty close to what Numudan has here. I would not be thrilled if I were him. Although I say that, and SAS has a forward gold as well, but neither player has a whole lot behind their base. Everything seems pretty forward. Because on the flip side, SAS slowly using the spear to guide the venison in. They've become, I guess shepherd's the wrong word. What do you call a herder of deer?
Vealard.
A vealard? Is that? I see it. Okay.
Wheel.
All right, put it in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. We'll do it. Vealer.
This is an interesting dynamic because the spearmen actually have a larger hitbox when it comes to interacting with deer than the scouts do. So it's easier to push the deer with the spears than it is to do with the scouts.
Interesting. I did not know that. Well, the Vealers of Valor are slowly escorting their deer herd back to the base. They're like they're not quite professional scouts, but they're close enough. There's the age up there with the classic Twin Minaret Madrasa with the berries popping up. There's been a couple builds where they go for the trade landmark, but it's been old school Ottomans here with the Dark Age spear from the military school and the Twin Minaret Madrasa. Plus got, again, Dome of the Faith for Numudan, getting those scholars out. For a while, I kind of missed Tower of Victory. There was a time where people used to nickname it, Tower of Defeat. And then it had its heyday where it was like the thing to do, and everyone, started saying Tower of Dumb or Dumb of the Faith instead of, Dome of the Faith. Now we're back to where we were again.
Yeah, it's nice to see that little back and forth between the two. I feel like some of that just comes down to convenience, and someone will come out with the alternative build, and people will be like, "Oh, wait a minute, this actually works well this way." So that is how you want to balance the landmarks.
I'm sure we'll all jump in line again. Yeah, when Beastie kind of looks at it and goes, "Wait, guys, we can do this too," and then we'll have a lot more builds. Just wait for like one of those guys, him or Puppy Paw, one of those top players, to be like, "Wait, you could do this build." They'll pull it out, maybe even in this tournament. You never know. This is a place where they unveil some pretty spectacular things at times. See the first God's Raiders on the field. Spears chasing after him, shouting as they do. They're gonna get the scout. Oh. Bit of a micro there from Numudan. Maybe the fatigue setting in just a little bit early on here in game number 5.
Yeah, I think if you're the players, you're starting to think, what is the kind of strategy that I can play that requires a little less micro? Because remember, that's going to be the big thing. If players are getting tired, you're looking for ways to take the pressure off of your shoulders early. And one of those ways would be to try and raid, really. Just run circles around the enemy and try to find opportunities to build a natural eco lead. Let your eco carry you, not your micro.
Hey, that's what I recommend to most players, actually, who are, more mid-ladder, lower ladder. Like, don't worry about the micro. Just macro right. If you macro right, that's 90% of this game. At this level, obviously, the micro starts mattering quite a bit more, as these guys can do some pretty spectacular things as they split their military in left, right, center, back, forward. They can do anything with these guys. We see spears coming out now for Numudan. Obviously, probably going to go for a play for the sacred sites here. 1 military school and a couple of production buildings out for SAS. Don't have a meter just yet. I'm guessing he's got one in the queue from one of the military schools. Sure enough. Oh, Sipahi. I thought that'd be a meter. Well, he doesn't have it. Maybe he's producing one for the gold? I don't know. He could buy one, I guess. Seems like an odd choice not to have one.
He will need a meter for this. Now, right now, it's Spear Cav versus Spear Cav. This is a little scary for SAS because, keep in mind, initially, the eco benefits the Delhi player. You will have all these eco upgrades for free. You do have the berry buff as well. So when you spam the same kinds of units, it's going to be a little Delhi favor. It starts to swing into the Ottomans' favor once you get to late feudal. By the time you really get those military schools pumping. But until then, Numudan has the edge, and I love this wall in the middle. Just sections off the map so well and makes it difficult for SAS to decap the sacred side. But that is a nice raid out there, and this is what you gotta do if you do not want to take microfights. Raid and find opportunities to take an eco lead.
Great pickup right there. +1 for SAS. He needs to keep doing that time and time again. You know, death by a million paper cuts does work in this game. And it never works until it works. And once you get enough damage done, you'll feel it. But one down. And in SAS's case, he hopes for many more. Yeah, I agree, though. These walls are great. Walling, I know some people love walling. Some people really don't love walling. It can slow the game down. But in this instance, a strategic wall like this, for the amount of wood you put into it, brilliant tactical decision. There's that meta on the field now. Final sacred site, or sorry, northern sacred site coming up for Numudan now. That's number 2. He hasn't quite moved over to number 3 yet in that south side. That's kind of far away, kind of in between the two. It'd be tough to contest that one. And we do see his spears marching around there, keeping it firmly under control of SAS. More walls. Is Numudan going to wall the entire map? Sure is posturing like he wants to.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice, but I don't hate it. Because you do get something very valuable from those walls. First off, it's going to be difficult to decap the sacred sites. Second, it's going to protect your economy, and the moment you're protected back at home, you can start looking for opportunities to raid elsewhere. Yeah, you have to decap that. But Numudan is so heavy on spearmen. I feel like we're getting back to the same place that we've been. He's going to play the spearman archer and then later on crossbowman composition. And it's going to be on SAS to do something with the cavalry if he so desires.
Yeah, I like this choice to go for the forward berries right here as well. I mean, knowing that his food's up front, securing that now. Numudan doing a good job. That sacred site's going to go down, however. Looks like the feudal fight is about to begin underway. The meta beating his drums as he goes. Inspiring all the guys around him. Some villagers going to get caught out. Wonder if those archers can catch up to him. Looks like they're going to get away just in time. And that's a visitor point ready to go. I'm curious what we'll get from this one.
Nice little raid coming in here. And we've actually seen a game like this back earlier today. Ottomans versus Delhi. And, you know, it would be quite a change of pace if this was a quick game. And it seems like that's going to be the case, at least. SAS is doing a lot of damage by pushing away the villagers on the berries, the gold, the wood. And he decapped all sacred sites. SAS is definitely getting some momentum for him. And as long as he's got 12 archers, there's not much that Numudan has to deal with those when the spearmen are also around. I think Numudan needs to wait until he has his own archers as well, and then it's going to be an even-ish army comp.
Yeah, the difference being there's a meta on one side, the other side has the scholars to heal. So it feels like both kind of have their little, edges in their game that they can kind of leverage a little bit here. I hesitate to agree that it's going to be a quick match, however, because these guys both have proven that they're pretty cautious and they won't throw the game if they can avoid it. It was a military campus as well, so another military school coming in for SAS eventually.
You're right. I did not think that much about that. It's not just the players. It's us getting tired as well. But yeah, I feel like this definitely feels like a game where you cannot just sit back and boom into Imperial, though. Like, someone is going to have the upper hand in terms of the army. And it looks like SAS is also a lot more active with the cavalry. I think that is what he needs to do. I love the walls back at home, by the way. That is something that helped him win game number 3, the Frisian Marshes game. Back there, he had the trade, and one way that he made sure that he never loses villagers is just to get the walls up. So if he's the aggressor like he is right now, if he's got walls back at home, the options to punish are very limited for Numudan.
Yeah, it feels like he's playing very defensive here, and he doesn't have any sacred sites to show for right now. Very tough position to be in. Yes. He's got no gold income whatsoever right now, so Castle Age and leveraging a tech up isn't even in the playbook at the moment. He's postured as if he needs to win it, and really he does. this game is going to be decided in the feudal age here, at least for the time being, until Numudan decides to move on to gold. Got a lot of food coming in, though.
Yeah, Numudan has a lot of food, but I think it's a little deceiving. He's taking all the hunt. He doesn't have good access to berries, and the lack of access to sacred sites is more alarming.
Yeah.
Frankly, with all the military schools out there for the Ottomans, this is exactly what they want to do. Just go back and forth and buy time until you really leverage all those military schools. So the waiting game actually pays off for SAS here because he's denying sacred sites and he's boosting his army with those freebie units. We talked about the dynamic of these two players, just like having a face-off but never really fighting directly. I think this time around it's going to benefit SAS that this is the case.
Definitely seems so. As the cat and mouse game continues, a couple units go on either side. And yeah, I agree. Numudan's going to only fall behind as the military schools gain more and more value the longer this game drags on. We're only 13, almost 14 minutes in. But you just kind of feel like Numudan's put on a clock, and eventually SAS is going to get that insurmountable lead. Now, the advantage, however, for Numudan is that he can pump out a lot very quickly. While he is on that hunt right now, he's getting 800 a minute of food. He can produce a lot very quickly and potentially overwhelm SAS here and now. As you see, he's picking up some archers right now. Pretty good little engagement. He's microing it very, very well. Spears getting upon the Sipahi. And back and forth. I think so far it's been okay for Numudan. SAS is, of course, resupplying this as well. Numudan looking for a good knockout punch if he can just deal it. Trying to find an opening. Some more archers going down. Spears on top of the Ghazis, though. Scholars trying to heal, but they're so weak. Ghazis going down in droves, and this is going to be game if it keeps going on like this. Sipahi now getting hit by the spears, and I think they've broken through. And this might just be game. Yeah, Ghazis are gone. Scholars are the front line.
The Scholars are nice, but this is something that we touched on before. They count as military at the top, so you think the armies are even, but Scholars do not deal damage. And when you one-shot a Spearman, the healing isn't going to help. Same thing, Spearmen do so much damage on Ghazi Raiders that the healing is just not enough to offset that DPS. They are better than nothing, but they're simply not enough to just, like, offset such a differential. And the Meter, it has been a huge contributor across these fights. Part of the reason why SAS is winning these, and now he needs to bounce. I think in previous games he was a little cautious. Now he needs to leverage this, and he does. And this is huge. Villagers have to just flee to the south. There's just nowhere left to go. Numudan, he fought bravely, but this might just be it for him. Because remember, it's not just the loss of the army. It's idle time, and the fact that he does not have access to any sacred sites. That in itself is catastrophic for a Delhi player.
Yeah, losing access to food is going to cripple him. There's nowhere for him to hide. If he can't go out on the map and get the food, there's nothing behind his base. That food counter, look at how much food he's got on the left-hand side. If Numudan doesn't have any left. Meanwhile, SAS, he's got all the world. He's got all the world all the time, and free units regardless. If Numudan loses his last little bit of food, as he's about to do right here on these berries, it's going to be over. There is going to be nowhere else for him to get the resources to produce more units. SAS needs to pounce ASAP.
I love the wars back at home from SAS, by the way. Like, he definitely is playing like he doesn't want to lose this game. And I also love how he's using 2 scouts. He's trying to push the berries, and I think it tells you a lot that Numudan is sending everything he's got over here. And if you're SAS, you realize, like, wait a minute, he needs those berries. I need to move in with everything I have, and I think he's going to do just that. He's going to try to force a fight and try to fight for those berries.
Yeah, he needs to make quick work of this. I think he's got the advantage right now. Most of that military mass, like you mentioned, it's all scholars. Numudan, I would just dive onto the Vills, you know, just cripple him economically at this point. Get the archers on there, because he's got enough. This Sipahi coming on the back, trying to get to the scholars. One does go down. Big engagement here as the spears finding the Ghazis. This is going to be an absolute cleanup. The scholars doing their darndest to keep everyone alive, but they themselves starting to succumb to the arrow fire as the Ottomans blacken out the sun with their shots. And this game is not looking too great for Numudan. However, he needs to finish off the Ghazis as well. He's running out of spears. Archers are still alive, but they clear out their archers. The amount of scholars that Numudan has lost is incredible. Now he goes onto the Vills, and this is the punch he needs to do. He needs to do a knockout blow to the economy so he can never come back.
That's the big
Look
thing.
at this food. 4 towers trying to be built. He knows this is his only lifeline.
If you take out 15 villagers here, it doesn't matter what happens next. But Numudan doesn't even have the army. All the Ghazi Raiders are cleaned up. The Meter is still standing. A lot of scholars fell as well. And Numudan, the only way he gets gold is if he mines it. There is nowhere to go, and I think he's busy typing GG. There it is. After some
SAS was
dragged
going
out
castle.
games. Oh man, what a series. What a series.
Yeah, SAS had the MIA half completed behind that. So even if that push fettered out, the amount of damage he did at the end was going to be just catastrophic with a Castle Age on top of it. SAS decides to close the door on this series in a quick game of 18 minutes and 30 seconds. You can see the graph right there. That huge swing of a fight in the middle. And then to come around and just hit the food. I think you said it perfectly, that the food, it looked good for a moment, but the food was going to become an immediate problem for Delhi. And sure enough, that was the name of the game.
Well, crazy day here. It did not seem like it was going to be like this. We had some, quick
started out a little slow. Yeah.
And then we went into this saying, yeah, it's seed number 4 versus seed number 5. We expected a tightly contested series, but these guys battled it out across 5 games. Several long games as well. And at the end of the day, SAS is the one moving into the main event, Numudan. Just 1 game short. Crazy day today. Any closing thoughts before we bid farewell to all the audience?
Yeah, I think all the players we watched today played really, really exceptionally well. We saw, if I had a bingo card, I'd be shouting out bingo because we saw some of the wackiest things. From Corvinus, you doing Dark Age Rush to some of the other Dark Age Rushes we saw from other players. I think Numudan played an exceptionally well series here, playing exceptionally well, doing really good throughout. SAS just a little bit better in the points where it mattered here, able to take 1 extra game over him. Been a fun series, and I've enjoyed hanging out with you, casting this game. Everyone in chat who's been watching with us, hope you've enjoyed. This is just a taste of the main event coming to you, starting, I think, next week, right?
Exactly. Come back. Same time next week. We actually begin the main event. We have I think, have most of the players already qualified, although there is 1 final series that is still going on. That is indeed Kiljardi versus Corvinus. That is dragging out. Although it's not that set specifically that drags out. It was just that the Corvinus part of the bracket was a little delayed.